Namaste, everyone joining us from all different parts of the world, whether it's the morning, afternoon, or evening. Namaste and welcome here to this webinar. I am so deeply honored to be a part of the Saptarishis astrology team and to share this Ketu webinar with all of you and to discuss this mystical energy, which I feel like no matter as much as we know about it, there's always something to know more. That's one of the kind of energies of Ketu, is that no matter what you know, there's always another layer. So even though we'll be talking
Definitely.
for Ketu today for 3 or 4 hours, there's always more and more to learn and understand. And but this is a nice, I think, way of interpreting and understanding Ketu. And I welcome and thank all of you for joining me here today. And I want to give a special thanks to Sunil John, feeling his presence and feeling his energy. And I had a nice conversation with him this morning, and he's very excited for this webinar. And we're all sending him healing at this time as he, improves the quality of his life right now. So sending love and healing to Sunil from my heart. So let's get started. Let me share the webinar here. Okay, great. Can everyone see the first slide?
I can see it very well.
Okay, fantastic. And let me check the chat. Are people also seeing it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to work on how to improve our planetary karma with Ketu. And I feel that the first webinar I did was Saturn, Shani, and such a commonly misunderstood planet and labeled malefic. And, a lot of astrologers or Jyotisha, they like to focus on the benefic planets. And I think that's wonderful. But when these planets are commonly described as malefic, then people have these connotations that they're negative, that they're dark, that they aren't having a positive influence on us. And there's a complete misunderstanding. And I think one of the planetary energies that is the most misunderstood is Ketu, because it can be very malefic or challenging on the material realm, but in some of the metaphysical or spiritual realms can be particularly positive. So we're going to dive deep into the karma of Ketu, and we're going to use ancient practices, contemporary practices, Ayurvedic recommendations, and paradigms of thinking. So different ways that our consciousness will understand Ketu. And by kind of understanding Ketu this way, we can really improve our planetary relationship with Ketu in our lives. There are going to be several different topics that we're going to dive into, but the first thing that we're going to discuss or go into detail about is Ketu's karma. What is Ketu? How do we understand Ketu? And how do we understand how Ketu is going to influence our karmic paradigm or our karmic structure, our karmic journey? So this Ketu karma, how to fully understand Ketu's karma, that will be the first area. And then we'll discuss a little bit about Ketu's current transit in Aquarius. Ketu's been in Aquarius for a while right now, and we'll talk about some of the energies that are present right now in the transit for Ketu and how those energies might be influencing things. Then we'll discuss Ketu and planetary dignity, which I said many different astrologer, Jyotish, have many different opinion about the planetary dignity of Ketu. So I will be presenting this idea from a kind of integrative perspective and understanding whether Ketu is auspicious or inauspicious depending on its position. And what do we mean by Ketu auspiciousness? What do we mean by Ketu inauspiciousness? And then we'll dive into how to improve the planetary karma with Ketu from an ancient perspective, from a contemporary perspective, from an Ayurvedic perspective. And then we'll go into different examples that different members of the community have sent in that I have analyzed, and we'll dive into those questions. And then we'll take some live questions from the community, and we'll about your charts for those that are here for us for this webinar today. And so I'm really excited to dive into this topic. And first we'll be discussing what is Ketu, what is Ketu's karma, and how to understand it.
Great. Super.
Now,
just be attentive. Sorry.
Please.
Sorry to disturb. Just be attentive with your mic because we can listen this sound sometimes when it rubs, you know, at your collar.
I understand. It's helpful if I hold it, right?
But that will be a little bit, you know,
okay,
difficult.
Thank you. I'll definitely be awareness so that there's no rustling. Before we get started on the webinar, I wanted to open up with a Ketu ritual, Ketu honoring. And this Ketu honoring is a very ancient practice. And when we honor Ketu through this traditional yantra you'll see on the left, and this traditional mantra that you'll see on the right, it is said to connect us to Ketu and to help improve our planetary karma with Ketu. So I'm going to open with this traditional mantra, as well as the seed sounds, tantric mantra of Ketu. And this will kind of open the vibration so Ketu can come into the webinar today. So I'm going to open with some Om and then get into the traditional Ketu mantra. And if any of you recognize this mantra, it would be highly auspicious for you to join. But otherwise, just meditating and receiving this mantra can also be profound as well. Palas puspa sankasham taraka grahamastakam radram radratmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyaham. Palas puspa sankasham taraka grahamastakam radram radratmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyaham. Palas puspa shankasam taraka grahamastakam radram radatmikam goram tam ketu pranamamyaham. Om kram krim kram saketave namaha. Om kram krim kram sa Ketave namaha. Om kram krim kram sa Ketave namaha. Om kram krim kram sa Ketave namaha. Om hrim aim 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 Ketave namaha. Om kram krim kram sa 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 Ketave Namaha. Hari Om Namah Shivaya. Namaste. Thank you all for sharing this Ketu mantra with me. I hope that you all enjoyed it very much.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Kiran, which mic do you want to mute? I don't understand. Anyhow.
Is everything okay technically? I hear Venus said no audio. Is everyone's audio okay?
Audio is perfect.
Okay,
so
great.
in that sense, it must be on the particulars end. I have written to her also.
I have a feeling it's Ketu. We were just calling Ketu in, and I think Ketu is very strong. So there might be a lot of wild things happening throughout this webinar. I would not be surprised.
That is the best way to get to know Ketu.
Definitely. Okay, so let's start with analyzing Ketu's karma. So the first thing I want to discuss is how to understand Ketu and the karma that it represents. Now, I'm going to try to define this energy as simply and clearly and logically as possible. But this energy that we are going to discuss, it is not definable. So we are attempting to define something which is undefinable. So there's no way I can even get close to describing 100% of what Ketu is. But by helping understand it from a generalized perspective, from a karmic perspective, we can truly improve our karma with Ketu. In other words, we don't have to understand Ketu 100% to improve our karma with Ketu. We just have to understand Ketu at all. The first thing I want to say about Ketu is that it is the force in this universe which is radically reorganizing, transforming, and realigning our lives and our life's path so that we are in alignment with our highest potential in this lifetime, primarily spiritual, primarily indicated with moksha, but depending on the position of Ketu, it can take away these moksha indications. So we're not going to describe it specifically that Ketu is aligning us to moksha yet. We're saying that Ketu is this force in the universe, which is reorganizing, realigning, and transforming in our lives so that we are in alignment with our highest potential in this lifetime. Now, that highest potential is primarily significated spiritually, but depending on some other aspects, it can not be emphasized spiritually. So it is this reorganizing, realigning force in our lives that is constantly trying to put us on the path with our highest potential. Now, Ketu is also known as the presenter or the giver or the offerer of obstacles. And this inherent energy and nature, Ketu manifests deeply in its karmic expression. There is a reason why Ketu has been known as the presenter of obstacles for thousands of years. These obstacles which Ketu presents can also be understood or interpreted as signs, omens, or signals from a celestial realm. So, Ketu is the giver of obstacles, but depending on our consciousness, we can understand those obstacles as omens or signs or signals from a higher place. So if we're spiritually oriented, if we're on our path to our highest soul's potential, then Ketu, the obstacles that it gives us, they're more like omens, signs. signals from the universe. But when we're not in alignment with our highest potential or frequency, particularly spiritually, then we mostly understand what Ketu is giving us at obstacles. So when we change our perception and alignment with our path, those obstacles become omens. So there's two different ways of interpreting this word obstacle. Now, Ketu's karma, from a general perspective, relates to receiving these obstacles, signs, and omens and signals from the universe, which help us to align to our highest potential. So basically, Ketu is the presenter of obstacles, but that obstacle is really a gift. That obstacle is a gift that when we overcome that obstacle, when we conquer that obstacle, when we do the transformation necessary that that obstacle presents, then Ketu helps align us to our highest potential. So Ketu offers these obstacles, but they are only secret gifts. So we see as obstacle, we see as problem, we see as challenge, but that is not what it is. It is a gift, it is a sign, it is an omen. And that omen is helping us align to our highest potential. Now, this potential that I'm talking about is particularly connected to the Vedic aim of life, moksha, because Ketu is considered moksha karta, moksha indicator, moksha significator, which is often considered enlightenment. That's the common word that we like to use for moksha. But it's deeply connected to surrender, non-attachment, and liberation of the ego. So even though commonly is described as enlightenment, I like to consider moksha more to be considered liberation or emancipation, the greatest form of freedom that there is.
Well said.
Now, every planet has a direction that it likes to travel: north, south, east, west. And Ketu is the only planetary force which travels upwards in its direction. It is said that Ketu travels towards heaven. So every planet has a direction which it travels, and Ketu's direction is heaven, hence the moksha karaka, hence the moksha significator, because that Ketu's alignment is to a celestial realm, is to a higher place that we can't even fathom or understand, that is connected to our past lifetimes and our future lifetimes. But this energy, it's in heaven. So Ketu's directional orientation towards heaven coincides with this aspect that we're talking about, liberation or moksha. Therefore, Ketu's only concern or primary concern is our highest potential. And generally, this potential that we're talking about is deeply connected to moksha, which is liberation. And since Ketu prioritizes this alignment over other goals and potentials, it can cause heavily destructive effects on the material or the physical realm. Because Ketu is connected to heaven, and it's only concerned about our moksha, or primarily concerned about our moksha, primarily concerned about our liberation. And sometimes this moksha, this liberation, it is connected to letting go of this body. It is connected to letting go of this body. It is connecting to letting go of this ego. And that can be a very painful and difficult process. So this is why Ketu is commonly considered to be malefic, because I consider Ketu to be benefic, because I think as people on a spiritual path, we are seeking moksha. And if we are seeking moksha and want to use astrology to get there, I don't see how you get there without Ketu. Now, you don't need astrology to reach moksha, but if astrology is part of your path, then you must go through Ketu to get there. That is my personal opinion as an astrologer. So this can be very beneficial on a spiritual, metaphysical evolution of the soul perspective, but horribly destructive and chaotic on the physical or material realm, especially as relates to our attachments, because moksha is the letting go of all attachments. So a lot of time, Ketu just takes away our attachments. And sometimes the loss of those attachments can be our husband. It can be our children. It can be our parents. It could be certain aspects that we wanted for our lives. And this can be very painful and difficult on the malefic realm. That is why we see it as an obstacle. But again, all of these things are orienting and aligning to moksha. So again, very benefic, positive energy on a spiritual level for the soul's evolution, but has its great significations for being difficult on the material realm. That is why I like to say that Ketu is both an angel and a demon. And it all depends on our relationship with Ketu, whether Ketu will show up as an angel or Ketu show up as a demon. And it is very similar with Rahu as well. Like Rahu can also be like an angel or like a demon. And we will discuss how are these different energies and how can we relate to Ketu as an angel instead of relating to it as this dark energy. So I like to say that Ketu is akin to an angel or relatable to an angel to those who are connected to their path to moksha. So to those that are already in the full alignment with their potential or path to moksha, Ketu acts like an angel. Now, we're in the Kali Yuga, so this is a very small percentage of people that are in path with their alignment to moksha. In the time of the Kali Yuga, moksha isn't even the top priority. So, but there is still this potential for Ketu to be like an angel to those that are primarily focused on their path to moksha, to their highest spiritual potential, and the plan the universe has for them. So Ketu is like an angel for those that are already in their highest alignment with their path to moksha. And this isn't an easy process, but it shows that when Ketu is strong, that this aspect of moksha being emphasized and prioritized over the other aims of life, dharma, artha, kama, can be really beneficial. So when Ketu is very strong, it is always best to favor moksha as the aim of life over the other aims of life, dharma, artha, kama. Even though Ketu can help those influences too, that during these Ketu energies, if we align to that moksha, Ketu can act like an angel. Now, Ketu is akin to a demon or might seem demonic or might act demonic to those who disregard their highest potential, run away from it, and ignore these obstacles, signs, omens, and signals that Ketu presents to align to our soul's potential. So when Ketu keeps giving signs and signals and obstacles to help us align to our highest potential, and we don't notice them, and we run away from this change, we run away from this transformation, we run away from this alignment to our highest potential because change is difficult. Transformation is painful sometimes. So we fight against the energy of the transformation. We refuse to see the signs and obstacles and messages that the universe will send us. Well, then Ketu will certainly act like a demon and is not afraid to even take away a human life the more we forget to notice any spiritual aspect of life. When we forget to notice any signs, any omens, any alignment with our spiritual potential, Ketu can be very destructive. It can even take away a human life. So one of the ways we can understand this manifestation as the presenter of obstacles is to interpret these obstacles as omens, signs, and signals from the universe. So instead of looking at it as an obstacle, we're looking at it as an omen or a sign. And the definition is that the universe is showing you something. And if you're comfortable with it, God is showing you something through the universe. And this is an omen or sign. And this omen or sign is God's way or the universe's way of trying to get some change and transformation that is necessary in your life. Now, it is quite common to experience our obstacles that we face in life as challenges problems, or inconveniences. So when we receive an obstacle, no matter what area of life it's in, we can often see this obstacle as a challenge, problem, or an inconvenience. But when Ketu is connected to these obstacles, they are divine omens. They are signs from God to help us align with our potential to moksha. So even though we might see it as an obstacle, challenge, problem, or convenience, it is really God trying to come into our lives and help us with our path to Him, with our, not Him, her, it, the universe, but with our path to the oneness, with the creation, with the Om. So these are, we can experience this as inconveniences, problems, difficulties, but they really are divine omens. Now, there's a great analogy that I have come up with to kind of explain what I mean by that Ketu is the giver of the omens and obstacles. Let's consider a lawyer who has reached a profound amount of success and reputation within their firm. And they have the great potential within the firm to become partner, which is the highest position of the firm. And they are very successful within the law firm. And that individual believes that that is their greatest potential. That individual believes that they are meant to be a lawyer, and that they are meant to be a great lawyer, and that they are meant to be the partner of their firm. That is what the ego and the self is believing in this situation. Now, the universe or God has a greater purpose for him. Let's say he is meant to be a guru or spiritual teacher, but he's a lawyer. But it's his karma and the universal will, God's will, for him to be a spiritual teacher. Then this person enters a Ketu energy, or Ketu dasha, Ketu subperiod, or maybe Ketu's in their lagna, so this is always present. But Ketu will offer obstacles to help this native reach his potential as a judge or guru. But every time a omen or sign is offered, but not properly attended to, noticed, or received, they become more and more severe and destructive. So basically, the lawyer, the best way to understand this energy is to kind of present it as an analogy. So this lawyer is meant to be a spiritual teacher. He is meant to be a guru. And it's also possible that he's not meant to be a spiritual teacher. Let's say that this lawyer is meant to be a judge of the Supreme Court. Like, sometimes what Ketu wants for us is not necessarily always spiritually indicated. It just shows that there is a higher purpose. And this person who thinks they've already reached their higher purpose, but has not reached their higher purpose, and that higher purpose is awaiting for them. And they have to go through this great change in order to get to that higher purpose. And while it's often significated spiritually, that sometimes it's significated in other ways. That's why I say that it's possible this person's potential is connected to being a spiritual teacher, but it's also possible that this person's potential could be a judge of the Supreme Court of the country. So anyway, both of these things are higher potentials. One is spiritual, one is not. This person enters their Ketu Mahadasha. They're driving to work one day, and they're on their way to work, and everything is going great, and they just entered their Ketu Mahadasha, and this person has no idea of astrology. And the tire pops on their way to work. The tire pops, and they have to pull over on the side of the road, and it takes a couple hours, maybe 90 minutes to fix the tire, and then the person gets to work, and they tell their boss that they were late, and the boss says, well, there's nothing you could do. The tire popped. That's unpredictable. And it wasn't your fault. So don't worry about it. And sorry that happened. He's still in his Ketu Mahadasha. Now, I will say now, I'll give the audience a hint and tell you that Ketu popped the tire. Ketu popped the tire, but that was more like a wink. This is the first omen or obstacle that Ketu presented, was that he couldn't get to work that day. Now, let's say it takes 1 week later. Now, this time the person is driving to work, and all of a sudden the transmission in the car begins to dysfunction, and the transmission in the car is no longer working. And they start to panic, and they quickly get off of the highway. And just before they get off of the highway in the emergency lane, a car almost hits them. But they manage to get away from the highway and get off to the side of the road, and the car is completely broken. So the car is no longer working. It has no more function. Its function was to get to work. So why is my function, which was able to get to work, disturbed? There's an obstacle here, which is a sign or omen that Ketu is sending to this person that there needs to be some transformation in your life, that your path as a lawyer is not the highest path that is meant for you. So in the second example, Ketu was also the one that destroyed the transmission. This time, the sign was a little more heavy because it risked the person's life. He gets to work, he takes a cab to work, he sends his car to the shop, and he tells his boss at work, boss, the transmission in my car is broken. And his boss says, well, that's weird. And then the person thinks to himself, yeah, that is kind of weird. But they're not spiritual. They only see it as an obstacle. They only see it as a challenge. They're not seeing any possibility of God or the universe sending them a spiritual message. They are only seeing this as an obstacle. So Ketu is getting angry. I would like to say that Ketu is probably getting a little bit angry. So this time, Ketu, he can't have a car. So the boss says, here, take the company car. Take the company car. I want you to have the company car since your car's not working, so you can still get to work. So 3 to 4 days later, he's taking the company car to work on it. Let's say it's a Tuesday. And all of a sudden, he wakes up in a hospital with intravenous fluids. And he has 3 broken bones. Both his legs are broken and his rib. And he's full of intravenous fluids, and the doctor says to him that you are lucky to be alive. The third time that Ketu was the most horrific or the most painful, because Ketu offered 2 more subtle suggestions, 2 more subtle challenges, 2 more subtle obstacles, and they weren't received or noticed by the individual. So by the time the third one came, that had to risk the individual's life. Now, because he's in the hospital and he can't recover, he loses his position in the firm. And at that point, someone brings him in the Yoga Sutra, and he starts reading the Yoga Sutras. And he begins to be transformed by the Yoga Sutras. And he decides that when he gets better, he's going to move to India. And he ends up going to an ashram in India, living in India, and becoming a spiritual teacher. So even though this was very destructive for him on the material realm, eventually it led him to his full potential as a spiritual teacher. But the more and more that we see these challenges, and as I call them, signs or omens, and transform as a result, the more gentle, Ketu can really be more like an angel, always helping us transform to our highest potential. But the more that we don't see these things, the more chaos and destruction and even things connected to death can occur. Because like I mentioned, moksha is connected to death, and Ketu carries that energy. So Ketu is not afraid to use the energy of death to help learn us lessons as well.
Wonderful, absolutely insightful, Kṣaṇāti.
Thank you, Bettina.
Ketu and Ketu Dasha, I can say so. Tell me, that's a real story you were telling here.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
Of Robin Sharma, the author?
Oh, yes. Is that a specific story? I just came up with
He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer.
Okay.
And he came very close of becoming a partner in the firm. And he was so stressed out that he ended up in the hospital with a slight heart attack, and it took him to India. Far into the mountains, where he received great insights And he spent quite an amount of time there. And when he came back, he started to lecture and write his books.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a true story.
True story. And that's a great example of the spiritual potential. And I think that's amazing. That's so amazing that that's a real story. And it has this potential to help us align to our fullest spiritual potential like that. And I've also seen it where, like, for example, my grandmother, she has a Ketu Scorpio Lagna, very strong. And she was a lawyer and during the time of lawyer, they are very financially successful. So she thought that's what she wanted to do. And then all of a sudden came this great transformation, and all of these people around from her were telling her to run for the Supreme Court. So she all of a sudden switches from being a lawyer to running for the Supreme Court. And in 1996, she was the first female justice of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, the state that I'm from. So Ketu also transformed her from a lawyer into a judge of the Supreme Court. So it has this potential to always bring us to our highest potential. And it likes to emphasize spiritual, but sometimes it can just be this higher purpose that the universe wants for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whichever way, yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Bettina. So I'm just gonna pull up the chat here. See what. Okay, thank you. I'll look at these later. I just love seeing what everyone is saying. So, oftentimes our path towards enlightenment or moksha, which we talked about earlier, is connected towards certain aspects of detachment, loss, and the concept of surrender. We can kind of understand this like similarly to how we understand the energy of the 12th house in Jyotish, is that it's indicated for liberation and moksha and all of these higher spiritual indications, but it's also connected to loss, surrender, non-attachment. So I'm talking about this. The Ketu is inherently helping us to moksha, but at the same time causing loss and detachment and loss in general, which includes the loss of our attachments and the loss of our control of life. So this concept of surrender is very strongly encouraged by Ketu as well. Now, Ketu's primary force is to encourage us to detach from aspects and areas of our lives that we are the most attached to those areas of life that we most seek to control. And it actually says in the ancient text that Ketu is connected to this karma from past lifetime. So that means that this area that Ketu is helping us work on is to detach from and not to seek control from. And this energy shows that we've been working on this karma for many, many lifetimes, and that by working on this karma, detaching from it, and not seeking to control it, this is our greatest path to moksha. So, for example, for someone with Ketu in the 7th house, their detachment from their partner, but mostly not attempting to control the marriage or how the marriage looks, is going to be their greatest path to moksha. So this area of the surrender of our attachments, the detachments from these areas of our lives that we are the most attached to, into the areas of the life that we seek to control. Now, because of the moksha karaka, Ketu works through a mechanism of erratic loss, taking away those attachments which are preventing us from liberation. So if there's anything that we are attached to, if there is anything we are attempting to control, Ketu is not afraid to just take it away, to rip it away, to remove it away. And this is very, very helpful for our path to liberation. So Ketu encourages the surrender of control by causing certain events or situations in our lives to seem completely erratic, unexplainable, and out of control. So one of the ways that Ketu encourages this surrender is by giving us no choice. sometimes there is no choice but to surrender. And this is one of the ways that Ketu encourages us to surrender, because there will be certain events in our lives that will be unexplainable, unpredictable, and that we have no control of. And the only thing that we can do is to surrender. And that when we do surrender, this is highly beneficial for our path towards moksha. Now, sometimes there are certain obstacles in our lives that prevent us from an ideal connection with the divine, from an ideal connection with God, bringing us further away from our path towards moksha and liberation from the ego and body. Ketu will place many spiritual obstacles in front of a soul's path in order to realign them with their highest spiritual frequency and proper path towards enlightenment. So in the ancient text, Ketu is referred to as the presenter of obstacles because it presents profound spiritual obstacles. When we conquer and move through these obstacles, Ketu realigns us with our spiritual truth and our path towards moksha. It's kind of like a rebirth, a death of one aspect of yourself and the rebirth of the highest aspect of yourself. And so Ketu is a divine reorganizer and reconnector to our highest spiritual truth and path towards enlightenment. Now, I kind of explain this through the situation, but Ketu offers profound obstacles, chaos, difficulties, destruction, and challenges, and loss to those natives who have a problematic relationship or karma with Ketu. So basically, it shows it's important to improve the karma with Ketu when we're experiencing Ketu karma as obstacle, chaos, difficulty, destruction, challenge, and loss. This shows that we have now we all are human being, and we all are living in the Kali Yuga, and we all have some attachment to our ego. We all are afraid to die. We all are afraid, but Ketu is helping us with these energies. So to those natives that are disconnected from their higher purpose or spiritual potential, like I mentioned, they may run away from it. Ketu presents these horrible obstacles and destruction, could be very malefic. In this sense, Ketu acts demonically, destroying the potential growth of the ego and our attachments because we are unable to see the teachings. So Ketu will destroy our ego whether we see the lesson or not. But it will be a much more demonic experience or a much more malefic experience if we do not see the teachings or lessons. The destructive manifestation of Ketu is deeply connected to the inability to see the omens, signs, and signals that Ketu presents in the native's life. Ketu is a tail with no head. Ketu has no head. Ketu has no eyes. So the greatest difficulty that we face with Ketu is the blindness, the inability to see these omens, signs, and signals that Ketu presents in our lives. This is how the most difficult karma with Ketu manifests when we are blind, like Ketu has no head, when we are blind to these signals, signs, and omens. Ketu offers rewards, visions, epiphanies, magical or transformative experiences, healing experience, momentary experiences of moksha, which means enlightenment before death, to those natives which have a positive relationship or karma with Ketu. So I have to present both sides of Ketu, the side of Ketu that acts like an angel and the side of Ketu that will act like a demon. But the Ketu will offer profound reward, vision, epiphanies, magic, healing, and enlightenment here on earth to those that have a positive relationship or karma with Ketu and are deeply aligned to their full potential spiritually or higher purpose consistently throughout their lifetime. So there's also a great amount of potential that if we're constantly focused towards moksha, the Ketu will help us get there and experience it even before we leave this physical body. And again, I think we all become enlightened when we leave our body, but this potential to experience this liberation while still in this body, well, I can't imagine it, but I know that it's possible. So in the most profound sense, Ketu also offers the ultimate emancipation, liberation, and contentedness, because Ketu karma is to remove our ego and attachments, which are the root of all suffering. Desire is the root of all suffering. Attachments is the root of all suffering. Ego, these are all the roots, the real origin of suffering is our attachments, ego, and desires. So in the most profound sense, Ketu helps us remove that which is the root of all suffering, our attachments and our ego. Now, Ketu is mentioned as the presenter of obstacles. So I want to talk about a certain karmic relationship, and I believe in a celestial hierarchy. Now, this could be symbolic, metaphoric, metaphysical. I don't really understand how it works up there, but this is a nice way to understand the relationship between Ketu and Ganesh. Now, as Ketu is the presenter of obstacles, while Ganesh is said to be the remover of obstacles. So they work intimately together in the celestial realm, or as I like to call it, heaven, to both present and remove obstacles. And remember, Ketu is the only planet whose direction is upward, is towards heaven. And it has a particularly close connection to Ganesh. When you work with improving your relationship and karma with Ketu, you are also similarly working on improving your karma and Ketu with Ganesh. They have a brother-sibling relationship, as I like to understand it. Both of these forces come from the same divine source. Everything comes from one. And these forces work together to help humanity in their spiritual evolution through presenting obstacles, omens, and signs, as well as removing those obstacles when we see or recognize the omen, sign, or the message or lesson that is being presented. So we can understand this. The Ketu and Ganesh can be considered great friends who work with each other in the deepest sense, in which Ketu does not present or give an obstacle that Ganesh does not approve spiritually. And Ganesh does not remove the obstacle until Ketu approves the native to be ready for that obstacle to be removed. So this relationship I want to present as a profound heavenly celestial relationship between Ganesh and Ketu, truly mystical and divine, and I explain it as a metaphor, but I feel this metaphor as a understanding in my heart, but it is easiest explained through metaphor, that like Ketu and Ganesh, they are like brothers working together in heaven to both present and remove obstacles that are necessary for our spiritual evolution. So that's the initial introduction into how to understand the Ketu's karma without understanding its position or dignity, but just understanding Ketu in general. And I hope this has been beneficial and supportive for everyone in understanding all of the amazing qualities that Ketu has to offer, and truly what those more difficult qualities, what they are offering that is positive, really. So I hope my intention was to present a slightly more favorable opinion of Ketu than I see that is generalized perceived through Jyotish. I believe Ketu to be more benefic than we truly understand, but that benefic is spiritual. Now, Ketu entered the Saturn-owned sign of Aquarius on January 30th of last year, and it will remain in Aquarius until August 18th of this year, until the late summer. Now, Aquarius and its relationship to Saturn bodes well for Ketu, as Ketu is counted amongst Saturn's friends and has a powerful auspicious energy in its alignment with Aquarius. Now, again, I'm going to use this word auspicious a lot, and sometimes auspicious does not mean here favorable on the material realm. It means favorable in terms of our spiritual liberation and our path to moksha. So again, this auspicious energy is our ability to achieve our highest soul's potential. Now, Ketu's alignment with Aquarius is highly potent and will encourage rapid and unpredictable spiritual transformation. Ketu is the force of the universe which is constantly aligning us to our highest spiritual frequency. And when it's traveling in Aquarius, which focuses on progressive consciousness, innovation, and alignment towards idealism and optimism. This shift will cause Ketu to embody and empower Aquarius-type vibrations because Ketu and Rahu are heavily influenced by the planets and signs which they are with, and even the nakshatras. And that I believe the nakshatras to have more influence on Ketu and Rahu than they do on the planets. But this is just personal as I come to understand more. But through Aquarius, Ketu is working to align our individual consciousness with that of the universal consciousness in a very potent spiritual way. This vibration means that Ketu in Aquarius is encouraging more unity and harmony in consciousness in certain types of groups and frequencies that are aligning. This means progressive consciousness ideals will be aligning, and those groups will be expanding in their expression. This particular concept could be seen playing out in the presidential election in the USA. This was very interesting, in which a very powerful but very idealistic Republican conservative consciousness aligned around Donald Trump. And at the same time, this was also a very unique, ideal, liberal democratic consciousness aligning around the candidate Bernie Sanders. And this was when Ketu first went into Aquarius. So the Ketu in Aquarius, it showed the alignment around Donald Trump because he is ideal in his conservative beliefs. And it also showed the alignment around Bernie Sanders because he is ideal in his liberal beliefs. It shows a lot of alignment around those energies which are idealistic. And this is hinting at a powerful energy reorienting Ketu with the optimistic, ideal, and consciousness-provoking energies of Aquarius. Another one of these extremely potent karmas that comes out of the current combination of Ketu and Aquarius is there a powerful reorientation towards idealism and optimism, especially as it applies to our spiritual path and our journey towards moksha. Now, our path to moksha is not ideal. There's nothing ideal about the spiritual path. It never turns out the way we thought it would. So this could be a more challenging aspect. This means, but the positive aspect is that those that have strayed away from optimism and idealism, strayed away from viewing the glass as half full, which means they look at the glass as half empty, strayed away from believing in the potential of that ideal. And so Ketu and Aquarius are working together to align us with the optimism and idealism again. So for those that have forgotten the aspect of themselves, which has some idealistic, some optimistic energy, the Ketu in Aquarius is helping align this vibration. So it may reawaken the idealistic energy within inside of you. And those that have Ketu in Aquarius are very idealistic individuals. This will only encourage us to see the optimism and idealism in all the areas of life, but to transform and align with that optimism and ideal. We will be able to transform in our lives, to transform and align our lives with our new evolving progressive consciousness. So whichever consciousness our consciousness is aligning to, we will be able to transform and align ourselves with that consciousness. Whether personally, I was a love of Bernie Sanders, and I still follow him, and his speeches and everything. So that is the ideal that I connect to. Everyone has an ideal that they will connect to, and there is some transformation during this time to that ideal aspect of yourself.
Well put it.
One of the things that Ketu would be known to do during this period is place certain obstacles, let's bring the obstacles of Ketu, in our path or areas in our life that are preventing us from reaching our ideal expression or our ideal alignment with our consciousness, with the universal consciousness. So whatever obstacles there are to consciousness evolution, whatever obstacles there are to pessimism, like if someone is pessimistic, not seeing ideal or optimistic, then Ketu will prevent powerful obstacles during this time to help us align with our path to moksha as relates to this ideal consciousness and to the ideals that we're believing in and striving for. So Ketu will cause a great amount of transformation to this. So this is a time of ideal transformation towards ideal expressions in our individual lives, which is, again, this is hard to talk about because life is not ideal, but there are times in life where we strive for ideal. You know, just because life is not ideal doesn't mean we shouldn't strive for the ideal. Doesn't mean the ideal isn't something that we should go for. Maybe that life can be bitter and pessimistic and cynical, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be optimistic. But this is coming from an Aquarius Lagna. So obviously I feel these ways in my heart as well. This is a time of ideal transformation and our path towards moksha, as well as transformation to what is truly ideal for our path towards liberation. So this transformation of our consciousness, it may be particularly beneficial to moksha. So how our consciousness grows at this time, while Aquarius and Ketu are together, may be very powerful for our path to moksha. Of course, it depends on where Aquarius is in everyone's chart. But this is a generalized energy. And our path, both in terms of preparation for transformation when our soul leaves the body. So this time period is preparing our consciousness for death, but it is also our preparing our consciousness to experience samadhi or nirvana while still in this physical form. But this evolution of the consciousness has to take place. The divine Aquarius Ketu vibration is encouraging ideal transformation, both in the subjective, objective, and collective sense. And when we honor this ideal transformation and continue to honor that vibration, it is very helpful in our alignment to moksha.
Kṣaṇāti?
Yes.
Just a small question from my side. So over the longer run, can we say that Ketu is interested to rise our frequency?
Yes. Yes, and that is why I like Kate, and I think Aquarius is like this too.
So, okay.
Yeah, so I think it's an auspicious alignment, especially for the raising of our frequency of our consciousness. Now, that frequency can be not, so the alignment can be a very positive high frequency, but you could also align around a lower frequency. Like how I mentioned, there's alignment around Donald Trump. And I don't mean to get into politics, but it's a very tamasic frequency. So this energy, this alignment, it's an alignment of our consciousness. And whether our consciousness is tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, liberal or conservative, it will align with the greater frequency in those ways as well.
Step by step, no?
Yeah.
Please continue.
So now we will get into the more controversial aspect. I know controversial isn't the right word, but Ketu and planetary dignity. And I am approaching Ketu and planetary dignity completely different for Ketu than I did for Saturn. I believe Saturn's planetary dignity to be very easy to understand, and Ketu's planetary dignity to be impossible to understand. So we are going to attempt to understand this. But again, these come from a lot of research and my own understanding of how to understand Ketu and its planetary dignity. But it is so complicated that it can't be understood simply as exaltation, debilitation, and things like that we understand with the other planets. Because of its inherently, for us to understand its auspicious, inauspicious, benefic, malefic vibrations, it's important to understand the dignity. So we're going to get into this area, and again, there are many different opinions about that, and I honor and respect all these different opinions in terms of Ketu and its planetary dignity. Ketu and Rahu vary greatly in the astrological opinion of their natural sign, exaltation, and debilitation signs. Therefore, in some respect, it is considered a controversial area of discussion since many different astrologers and lineages have different opinions amongst the matter. It is worth mentioning that some Jyotish, some forms and lineages of astrology believe that Ketu and Rahu to be beyond planetary dignity. That means that they are beyond exaltation, debilitation, and natural sign. Kṣaṇāti astrology and other forms of astrology believe that Ketu to be beyond planetary dignity, and I want to honor that. And when I first started doing this research, because I come from Parashara lineage, I was educated in a lineage of Parashara, which has its own opinion on the exaltation, debilitation, and natural sign of Ketu and Rahu. But I want to honor those that also believe that Ketu and Rahu to be beyond that. And even though I honor Parashara as my lineage, I will also delineate slightly from Parashara's opinions because my research led me that way. The opinion on the dignity and aspect of Ketu comes from the lineage I've studied, which I mentioned, Parashara, and my personal feelings and beliefs along the subject. I got many different opinions, and I really spent a lot of time meditating and doing research to present this. Other opinions on Ketu's dignity may vary, and I want you to know, as I mentioned, that I truly honor and respect those opinions as well. Now, generally, Ketu karma helps us transform and align to our highest potential in whichever area or aim of life it influences in the chart. And Ketu favors and prioritizes moksha aim above all other aims. It's the moksha karaka or moksha significator. So it helps us align to our highest potential in whichever area of the chart it is, but it prioritizes moksha no matter what. The position and dignity of Ketu influences greatly both the benefic or malefic nature of that transformation. That means that the position and dignity of Ketu depends whether the transformation that Ketu takes you through is going to be easy or hard, and the potential karmic outcome energetically of our highest frequency of being aligned to. So it influences whether the journey of transformation is easy or hard and how easy or hard it is. And it also influences the outcome of that transformation, the potential outcome of that transformation. Sometimes that transformation of that outcome could mean that you're a better person, and other times the transformation of that outcome could make you the president of your country. So again, the dignity and the auspiciousness of Ketu also influences the karmic outcome. Ketu will always favor to bring us to moksha in its pure energy. But Ketu always takes on the aspects of planets conjunct or related to it, the signs that it's in. So even the primary karma of Ketu, which is moksha, can be altered depending on the planetary dignity, conjunction, and placement of Ketu. So you will see as we go through these examples that Ketu will always honor and emphasize moksha, but that sometimes can delineate slightly from this as its only indication. Okay, very excited too. So I believe Ketu's natural sign to be Scorpio, due to Ketu's ancient comparison towards Mars and Scorpio's vibrational energy. Both Scorpio and Ketu have indications for transformation and rebirth. They also resonate as profoundly curious energies and seeking/investigative energies, and are akin to each other in the most profound sense. One might even say that Scorpio is co-ruled by both Mars and Ketu. So some Jyotisha believe Scorpio to be dually ruled, both by Mars and by Scorpio. Now, Ketu is extremely strong in Scorpio and therefore indicates an incredible amount of power, intensity, pitta, and transformation in whichever area of life it carries its influence. My lineage, Sri Maharishi Parashara, Om Namah Shivaya, considers Scorpio the exaltation sign of Ketu. So Parashara considers Scorpio to be, Ketu to be exalted in Scorpio. While my understanding, while I honor that, is much more understanding it to a similar or akin to Scorpio, and therefore resonating for me as an own sign or natural sign vibration. I don't think there is any sign that is more like Ketu than Scorpio. Now, depending on the house position of Ketu in Scorpio, it can be incredibly helpful for reaching incredibly high positions within society and government and establishing powerful dharmic roles within society, especially when Ketu is in the Lagna or the 10th house. Like my grandmother is Ketu Scorpio Lagna, and she became a justice of Supreme Court. So again, that was one of the energies that helped her. It is also has a profound potential to help us achieve moksha, liberate, and align to our greatest spiritual potential. And I like to say that Ketu will emphasize that. It can even help us glimpse moksha or enlightenment while still in the human body, while still in the physical form, as well as the highest form as transcendence at the time of moksha, or samadhi at the time of moksha. And I like to, like I mentioned, the 9th and the 12th house are significations for this more spiritual vibration of Ketu. Now, when Ketu is within the Rashi, Sagittarius, and Pisces, it is considered auspicious. This is due to Ketu's relationship with Jupiter. Now, I believe Ketu is most auspicious in Sagittarius when it is in Ketu-ruled Mula Nakshatra, which is just the first 13 degrees of Sagittarius. Potentially, this alignment of Ketu in Mula Nakshatra could be considered a sign of exaltation. So again, I will present my opinion here, is that Ketu, in some sense, is beyond exaltation and debilitation. I do kind of feel this way. But when Ketu is in its own nakshatra, I believe that can be considered an exaltation because it is extremely powerful and has extremely powerful significations. So my understanding of Ketu and its exaltations is when it is posited in its own nakshatra. Ketu is most auspicious in Pisces in Ketu-ruled Revati Nakshatra. Potentially, this alignment of Ketu in Revati Nakshatra could also be considered an exaltation of Ketu, or a most auspicious or beneficial alignment. Now, the lineage of Parashara, Sri Maharishi Parashara, considers Pisces to be the natural sign of Ketu, or to be the own sign of Ketu. So I want to emphasize that there is a strong amount of resonance between Ketu and Pisces. But I cannot consider Ketu to be the natural sign of Pisces because of Ketu being so much fire, so much pitta, that I do consider there to be an auspicious alignment when Ketu is in Pisces, but it's not to be its natural sign. Now, Ketu is very mystical and spiritual in Pisces, and is akin to spiritual, mystical, and moksha-related transformation. And that is why Parashara considers Pisces to be the natural sign of Ketu. Pisces has a moksha signification, and Ketu has a signification. So these combinations is auspicious, especially for the mystical or spiritual. Now, Ketu holds auspiciousness in Sagittarius and can indicate profound transformation to the highest version of ourselves from an ethical, moral, humanitarian, and justice-oriented perspective. So I like to say that Ketu holds auspiciousness in Sagittarius, especially into the transformation to the highest version of ourselves in terms of the moral and ethical aspect.
Okay, great. Kṣaṇāti, just a little error, I believe. Did you mean Purva Bhatta Bhatta? Because Revati is ruled by Mercury.
Yes, I did.
Okay, so there's a little error. So it should be Purva Bhatta Bhatta.
Yes. I actually think I mentioned that. I don't know. Must be a small typo there. Now, when Ketu is within the Rashi Taurus, it is considered particularly malefic and inauspicious. This is because Taurus is a sign of wealth, stability, and security. And Ketu has many significations and qualities that oppose this, such as unpredictability, chaos, change, and loss. Sri Maharishi Parashara considers Taurus to be the debilitation sign of Ketu. So, from a very ancient perspective, there is a very inauspicious energy when Ketu goes into Taurus. Now, I find Ketu to be most debilitated in the Kritika Nakshatra and the Rohini Nakshatra because of Ketu's enemy relationship with the sun and the moon. Ketu is said to have the most malefic or negative relationship with the sun and the moon. So when Taurus, it's particularly difficult when Ketu is in Kritika Nakshatra or Rohini Nakshatra. Now, Ketu becomes more auspicious. And I've even heard certain perceptions that Ketu can be exalted in Taurus. Now, this is an opposite kind of energy from how I want to mainly focus Ketu's energy in Taurus. But in the last 7 degrees of Taurus, 23 to 30 degrees, Mars is Mrigashira Nakshatra, which is also called Amrita Nakshatra, which is ruled by the planet Mars. Because of this energy, this nakshatra has special indications for living a spiritual life and taking a spiritual path towards liberation. So even though Mars is very troubled in Taurus, I believe it to be much more auspicious if it's in Mrigashira Nakshatra.
And Ketu.
Yes.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, makes sense.
When Ketu is within the Mercury-ruled Rashis Gemini and Virgo, it is considered a mixed effect and carries both auspicious and inauspicious effects. Some even consider Ketu to be debilitated in Gemini. Ketu is known to have a neutral planetary relationship with Mercury, which is why generally Ketu in Mercury ruled signs has a mixed effect. It will not be purely auspicious and it will not be purely inauspicious. Now, when Ketu is in a Mercury ruled sign, it causes Ketu to influence the native's buddhi. Buddhi is the discretionary factor of our consciousness. This brings inherent challenges to the integrating magic and logic and brings moksha significations into the native's logical mind. In other words, the natives are forced to surrender their logical or rational thoughts and understanding about certain aspects of life for the unpredictable, magical, transformative, illogical Ketu. So for those that have Ketu and Mercury ruled sign, they really have to surrender their logical, intellectual understanding of things for the magical, healing, or transformative aspects of things. And this can be challenging. This is a challenge vibration to combine magic and logic.
I read with Bipin Behari. He states that this placement particularly makes a person too practical oriented. And this practicality stands in between somehow, no?
Yeah, and that makes sense too, because ideally one's logical and one's mystical or magical or spiritual come into balance here, but that will be very challenging. Usually I would imagine that the logical would be favored here, and that the signs and omens may be ignored and not believed in because they are not logical at all. There's nothing there. There's no way to logically understand an omen. There is no way to intellectually understand an omen. So it can be a challenge in karma, but again, to the piece of the logic and the magic energy there. Now,
many authors in this regard stress that it depends upon the evolution of the soul also.
mm-hmm.
So there are different layers, we can say, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where people may appease for logic, but
exactly.
they have a sense or a door open, you can say, and have space for another thing as well, you know, and integrated it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, within Gemini Rashi, Ketu is most auspicious, because I like to focus on the positives, in Mrigashira Nakshatra, and has very unique mystical and transformative indications in the Rahu-ruled Ardra Nakshatra. Now, when Ketu is in a Rahu Nakshatra, that is not going to be easy, but it has very profound energies for spiritual transformation. Most auspicious or comfortable in the Mrigashira Nakshatra, but also mystically powerful in the Ardha Nakshatra. Now, within Virgo, I believe Ketu to be most auspicious within Chitra Nakshatra, which is the last 7 degrees of the Virgo Nakshatra. This conjunction can aid greatly in experiencing the divine beauty of life, both on material and spiritual. So, as I mentioned, the difficulty of combining the logical and the magical. Well, something about when Ketu is in Chitra Nakshatra, that energy of the combination of those things becomes a much more auspicious vibration. Now, within Virgo, Ketu is particularly inauspicious in Uttar Palguni and Hasta Nakshatra. Again, Ketu has a very difficult relationship with the sun and the moon, so can be very challenging in those nakshatras, Uttar Palguni and Hasta. I normally don't discuss this much about nakshatras, but like I had mentioned, when I began to really dive into this topic, it seems the nakshatras with the nodes have a very important relationship. So when Ketu is within Aries, it is considered particularly strong, very, very strong energy. Again, one could even consider it a natural sign or own sign, but Aries doesn't have as strong of a spiritual vibration as Ketu, but because of this relationship of Ketu and Mars, it's a very powerful pitta, 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 pitta combination. One could consider this alignment to be a planetary friendship, but I mentioned here it is incredibly hot and pitta aggravating, and so is Ketu in Scorpio. This Ketu in the pitta-ruled signs, very difficult for pitta in the constitution and pitta in the body and pitta aggravation throughout one's life. So I believe that it will offer a mixed aspect, auspicious in allowing this great passion and intensity in one's actions, but inauspicious because this alignment can cause radical, extreme, violent, or aggressive energy. It can show someone who naturally deals with pitta issues. And again, one of these aspects of pitta includes anger, violence, and sometimes this combination of Ketu in a Mars-ruled sign can show even military aspects to the individual. Now, Ketu is by far the most auspicious and powerful in Ashwini Nakshatra within Aries, and has powerful indications when in Ashwini Nakshatra for magic, mysticism, and medicine or healing. The Ashwin twins are within the lineage that founded Ayurveda. So when Ketu falls in Ashwini, it shows that you can be a healer. Now, this also shows that you might have to suffer certain health difficulties in your own life in order to find your path as a healer. But I believe Ketu to be very auspicious in the Ashwini Nakshatra because of its potential for healing, medicine, miracles, and magic. And I would even say that you could consider Ketu exalted in Ashwini. Now, I'm talking about 5 or 6 nakshatras that you can consider Ketu to have auspicious energy in. That's what I consider when I say Ketu can be considered exalted here, is that Ketu can be considered very auspicious in the Ashwini nakshatra. Now, when Ketu is in Aries and in Kritika nakshatra, this is horribly disturbing to the Pitta dosha and usually very, very, very challenging to the individual's health. When Ketu falls into Kritika nakshatra, it can be very difficult and challenging for one's Pitta dosha in their body and one's health. And yeah, that I consider an inauspicious, more challenging alignment where Pitta always has to be kept in balance. Now, when Ketu is within Libra, it presents a mixed effect, similar to the mixed effect of Mercury. But many Jyotisha, actually in my research, and I had found this in how I had learned, that Ketu and Libra's ruler Venus to have a planetary friendship. So some astrologers consider Ketu to be friends with Mars, Venus, and Saturn. And this energy of this planetary friendship does present some auspicious energies, but it will be a mixed effect. It is not the most auspicious, but it is potentially very auspicious for the more spiritual aspects, but could be challenging, as I mentioned, on the material physical realm. Now, Ketu is auspicious in the Chitra nakshatra and has very powerful mystical and spiritual indications in the Rahu-ruled Swati nakshatra as well, that allows for profound spiritual transformation. Now, again, Ketu in the Rahu nakshatra is going to be very challenging on the material realm, causing great amount of transformation. I think the path will be the most rewarding when Ketu falls in the Chitra nakshatra. Now, Libra is a Rashi that wishes to achieve balance, harmony, and peace with all things in the universe. Ketu makes this achievement of harmony and balance with the universe extremely challenging because the constant unpredictable change and transformation that Ketu brings. So you have to find balance and harmony with chaos. You have to find balance and harmony with unpredictability. And this is inherently a challenging vibration. So this ultimately leads us to experience life. This ultimately leads us to experience duality, the duality of life, which means good and bad, positive, negative, pleasure, pain, happiness, and sadness. It has this strong indication when Ketu is in Libra for us having these really dualistic extreme experiences. But the spiritual path of Ketu in Libra is to go beyond the duality, the path of non-duality. And this is connected to the branch of the Vedas called Vedanta philosophy. So those with Ketu and Libra have to experience the duality of the universe. And sometimes that duality can be very challenging on the material realm in the process of the transformation. But eventually it leads them to experiencing a certain form of liberation that is beyond duality. So there is this potential to go beyond pleasure and pain, to go beyond happiness and sadness, to go beyond the duality. And again, this is connected to the Vedanta philosophy. And I just encourage those with Ketu and Taurus and Ketu and Libra, the Vedanta philosophy to be very beneficial. Non-duality.
Brilliant. Wonderful.
When Ketu is within the Rashis Capricorn and Aquarius, and we've already talked a little bit about Aquarius, just going to go over it a little again. It's considered powerful energy. Saturn and Ketu are considered amongst friends in the planetary relationship, but they are always working together for the greatest amount of growth spiritually. But both planets are similar in then that they are not necessarily concerned with the benefic nature of your physical experience of life. So Ketu and Saturn also can be compared to each other because they care about your spiritual growth above everything else. Now, when Ketu is in Capricorn, it causes great unpredictable transformation through challenges, obstacles, and adversity in one's life. Capricorn is this sign of adversity. This conjunction can be very challenging on the material realm. Ketu is less auspicious in Capricorn when it is in Uttarashada Nakshatra or Shravana Nakshatra. Again, Ketu has a very difficult relationship with the sun and the moon. Now, Dhanista Nakshatra, I believe Ketu to have a slightly more auspicious relationship with. Again, so even within the Capricorn, more challenging in Shravana and Uttarashada than it is in Dhanista. Now, when Ketu is in Aquarius, as we mentioned, it causes profound, unpredictable transformation of the native's consciousness. Ketu is constantly advancing those with Ketu in Aquarius to new paradigms of thinking, alternative forms of consciousness, and spiritual innovation. Ketu is favorable in the Dhanista Nakshatra, as I mentioned, which is in the end of Capricorn and the beginning of Aquarius. And it is particularly magical or mystical in the Rahu-ruled Saptarishis Nakshatra. This is also similar to Rohini, similar to Ashwini, but has a more Rahu-type nature to it. But this is a very mystical indication here, and also shows the path of the healer. Just like Ketu in Ashwini, Ketu in Satabisha also shows the path of the healer.
It's called 100 Healers, no?
Yes, yes. The garland of 100 flowers, I like too. And that is actually my Lagna Nakshatra.
I was supposing.
Yeah. So that is my, I guess, ruling nakshatra, one could say. Now, when Ketu is within the Rashi Cancer, it creates a particularly challenging and malefic effect. Sometimes I consider this to be more debilitated than Taurus. This is due to Ketu's extremely challenging and troubling relationship with the moon. Ketu moon, very, very challenging. And Ketu and the moon are most definitely enemy energies to each other. Cancer is the sign of the feeling and the emotion, and Ketu's influence on this Rashi causes great amount of distress on the mental and emotional plane. This is when Ketu is in Cancer, or when Ketu is conjunct with the moon, it causes a great amount of distress on the mental and emotional plane. Now, Ketu's placement in Cancer, while it does cause much distress on the mental and emotional, can also help with profound mental and emotional transformation. So it can be very helpful for the transformation of our emotional self, but horribly challenging in that process. And I have a particular amount of sympathy and compassion to those natives with Ketu in Cancer. Now, Ketu functions most benefic in the Purnarvasu Nakshatra. So even when Ketu is in Cancer, it can do slightly better in the Purnarvasu Nakshatra. This encourages a lot of success and growth in one's lifetime. No matter what, will still cause challenges on the mental and the emotional, but can be very productive with the overcoming of that transformation. Now, Ketu also has a mystical vibration that supports moksha in Ashlesha Nakshatra, because one of the karmas of Ashlesha Nakshatra is to remove obstacles in one's life. That is Ketu's bhava, which is to remove obstacles, to present obstacles in one's life. So this is conjunction, while very challenging on the physical realm, can very powerful on the spiritual realm as well. Very powerful on the spiritual realm.
Yeah, moon is a nurturer, no?
Yeah, I can't imagine a more challenging relationship than Ketu and moon. Yeah, because of the transformative aspect. Oh wait,
Yeah.
Did Inch freeze for a second?
Oh yeah, it seems frozen.
Okay, but we're still okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Very well said.
We'll send prayers for Inge to return back to the webinar soon. So when Ketu is within the sun-ruled Rashi Leo, it is considered a mixed effect and can be particularly auspicious or inauspicious depending on the nakshatra that Ketu falls within Leo. Generally speaking, though, just like Ketu's relationship with the moon, Ketu and the sun are considered enemies planetarily and generally presents challenging karmas and malefic expressions in their conjunction with each other. So this energy of Ketu in Leo can be very challenging, but I've also read that Ketu can be considered exalted in Magha Nakshatra. So Ketu overall going to be very challenging and mixed effect in Leo, but there is a profound auspiciousness contained within Leo, within the Magha Nakshatra, which is the first 13 degrees of Leo. This conjunction indicates and empowers magical, charismatic, royal leadership and power within the community. So in a sense, I consider this combination to be the combination of the prophet. Much like that, this alignment of Ketu in the Magha Nakshatra can cause you to be a spiritual leader. And this can be, I consider, to be even an exaltation of Ketu in the Magha Nakshatra because of its position here to combine the leadership of energies with the spiritual energies and make a very spiritual and charismatic leader. Now, again, this spiritual and charismatic leader can either use white magic or they can use dark magic. That is up to the leader. So it shows a spiritual leader like my guru, Amritananda Mayima Amaji. It could show the potential for that kind of guru, and it could also show the kind of potential for like Charles Manson, you know, some like crazy nutcake who, you know, is very magical and powerful, but has a dark intention. So again, this has a great indication for a spiritual leader, and that it is up, but that does not say whether the leader is of light or of dark.
Wow.
Now, Ketu is comfortable in the Purva Palguni Nakshatra, and but it is most malefic in the Uttar Palguni Nakshatra, which is the last 4 degrees of the Leo Nakshatra. This can be a particularly pitta aggravating conjunction. So that is my discussion of the planetary dignity of Ketu, and I hope that that was informative. Instead of thinking of it as there is a right exaltation for Ketu, there's a right debilitation for Ketu, there's a right natural sign. I wanted to look at it energetically. And I think because we looked at it from this energetic perspective, it kind of helps us understand our own karma with Ketu and how to relate to that karma with Ketu. Even from a nakshatra perspective, which I think is more detailed and specific, and particularly relevant for Ketu and Rahu. Now I want to get into how to improve our planetary karma with Ketu. We've talked about the planetary karma with Ketu, how to understand Ketu, its planetary karma. We talked about its current transit, and we talked about how it acts depending on its dignity and position. But now it's really important, and I really want to focus on how to improve this planetary Ketu karma. And a lot of these things, they're going to sound simple, but sometimes the simplest things can do the most profound amount of transformation.
Looking forward to that.
We honor Ketu. We can honor Ketu every day, especially if Ketu's in a Kendra, especially if we're in a Ketu Mahadasha or Antardasha or Gabukti of some time. We can honor Ketu every day. But Ketu is related to Mars. And so I believe Ketu is strongest on a Tuesday. That is why I chose today for this webinar because I believe that Ketu is to be the most powerful. And from my own personal experience, Ketu is the most powerful on Tuesday. It seems that my karmas with Ketu always seem to come up on a Tuesday. So I believe that this is a very powerful day for Ketu, and that Ketu is even strongest after sunset on Tuesday. So from sunset on Tuesday night until sunrise on Wednesday morning, Ketu is extremely powerful and strong. I believe this to be the strongest time of the week for Ketu. So the most auspicious time to honor Ketu. But again, honoring Ketu every day is wonderful. Now we honor Ketu by wearing multicolored and striped clothing. I have an example here, and I have an example here. And we honor Ketu by wearing multicolored and striped items. Ketu is like a rainbow of divine light, like this vision that someone is having of God. And so we honor Ketu by wearing of multicolored and striped clothing. This is a very auspicious energy to enhance the relationship with Ketu. Also, it is said in the ancient text of Parashara that we honor Ketu by wearing clothes that have wear and tear, including patches, tears, and rips. This is a very interesting energy, but basically it is auspicious for you to, in honor of Ketu, to wear vintage clothing or clothing that is heavily worn. Jeans that have tears, pants that are frayed at the bottom, pajamas that need patches, overalls that need patches. All of these energies of like these clothes have wear and tear and are the expression of that. This is very auspicious. Whether you have holes in your socks, this is an auspicious energy for Ketu. It says directly in the ancient text that we honor because Ketu is sometimes associated with the homeless that don't have clothes, that all their clothes are worn and torn and broken and everything. So it's very auspicious for you to wear rags, is the actual translation from the ancient text. In honor of Ketu, we wear rags, which is clothing that has been heavily worn.
It's actually funny you mentioned, because ever since my Ketu Dasha, I have holes everywhere. My favorite piece of clothing, and I mean everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's quite interesting. So I keep on wearing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's even interesting that the gem, which is the cat's eye chrysoberyl, it can be very pure, but on a microscopic level, it's full of tears and rips and lines. Like it's one of those gems that is just like, it's not solid the whole way through. There's a, yeah, it's like, you know, one of the things that I think it significates is when we wear things that have a lot of, you know, wear and tear, they don't necessarily look as good. So in a sense, we're letting go of our ego because we're wearing a clothing that is not going to look good. So that's one of the ways that I think it works too, is that it's, you dress humbly, dress humbly. Yes. So we don't honor Ketu by wearing a suit. You know, it's just very antithetical to the energy of Ketu. More to wear, you know, torn and ripped clothing that you've had for 10 years. Now, we also honor Ketu through traditional Ketu mantra, which we did in the beginning, which would include the full sutra and then a repetition of the tantric mantra or seed sound 108 times. I did both. So this is very beneficial in terms of honoring Ketu. And I think Tuesday night is a very auspicious time to perform this mantra. Now, we honor Ketu through doing our prayers and mantras in front of a well-designed Ketu yantra. So I also like the yantra that I have in this presentation. And there, you can find many beautiful yantras on my website and on the internet. That will be beneficial for improving the relationship. So it's important to have the Ketu yantra, you know, framed in color and on the altar during times when we want to improve our karma with Ketu. We honor Ketu by wearing the gemstones cat's eye and opal set in the middle or ring finger.
So now here I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Now with gemstones for
Yes.
malefics, what do you think about Ketu in this sense?
The question is, how ready are you for moksha? When you, now, I've seen many amazing things happen as a result of my clients and their Ketu gemstones. One thing that is very interesting is I have had clients that have Ketu in the 7th house. And when they wear the cat's eye chrysoberyl, they end up finding their partner.
Oh, wow.
But maybe the partner's married.
Mm.
You know, it's like these kind of things where it's like, you know, because if Ketu is in the 7th house, the ultimate energy is non-attachment, not trying to control, not trying to separate. So you may, like Rahu and Ketu, Rahu always gets what he wants. In the sense we honor Ketu, we can get what we want. But Ketu is most concerning with our moksha. So I used to wear a Ketu ring every day, and my life right now is not focused on moksha. I'm willing to admit that. I'm okay with that. And so I found the Ketu ring to be malefic because I have Ketu in the 7th house. And when I wore the cat's chrysoberyl, I could feel, and I'm married, and when I wear the cat's eye chrysoberyl, I could feel a separation from my partner. Now it could be non-attachment. That could be helpful for me for moksha, but I'm in my first year of marriage. I don't want to be non-attached to my partner. So in any case, I don't wear it anymore because, so basically you have to look at how how Ketu is specifically influencing your karma. But the main question with the Ketu gemstone is, how ready for moksha are you? And
Okay,
so,
that's good advice.
And it will reveal the karma. So it might give you if you have Ketu in the 7th house, it might give you the partner that you're seeking. But again, odds are that partner, it's potential that partner is there to teach you lessons of non-attachment, is there to teach you lessons of loss, is there to teach you lessons. So again, it's a mixed effect. You know, it's a mixed effect with the cat's eye chrysoberyl. And I wear a lot of gems, and it is one of the gems for me that I don't wear. You know, I have 5 rings on, and I'm not, one of them is not cat's eye because I not ready for moksha yet, especially but it is said that when we wear as I mentioned in the last session, we can decrease malefic energies by wearing a gem on the left hand and increase benefic energies by wearing the gem on the right hand. But this is just one of the modes of thought. Other modes of thought think no matter where wear the gem on what hand, you're still increasing the energy. But if you really want to just work on improving and reducing the malefic aspect of Ketu, I would recommend wearing it on the left hand, or the non-dominant hand, the hand which you do not use. So left hand if you're right-handed, and the right hand if you're left-handed. Now, as I mentioned before, we also honor Ketu through honoring Ganesh, including rituals and traditional Ganesh mantras. We talked about the celestial hierarchy between Ganesh and Ketu. So we honor Ketu every time we honor Ganesh, and we honor Ganesh every time we honor Ketu. So it is highly auspicious for those with strong Ketu, and in Ketu Mahadasha, Ketu periods, to really honor Ganesh as one of these divine energies. This will improve the quality of life because Ketu is the presenter of obstacles. And when we honor Ketu and we're honoring Ganesh, we are asking that those obstacles that are presented, that we are able to overcome those obstacles so that they may be removed. So this is a very powerful energy of honoring Ganesh to improve the quality of life during the Ketu karmas. Now, one of the primary things that the ancient texts describe is that we honor Ketu through meditation. As I mentioned, Ketu is a tail with no head, which means we're blind, which means during a Ketu period, it is hard for us to see. It is particularly hard for us to see the future, and it is particularly hard for us to understand the past. But basically, during a Ketu period, we're blinded. Our head is cut off. And when our head is cut off, you can't see. So the best thing you can do is turn the eyes that are outside inside, which is meditation. And so the number one, while it's simple, I think the number one thing that we can do for Ketu is take our eyes that we see and put them inside and put that energy internal into a meditative space. When we go through a meditative space, when Ketu is strong or we're in a Ketu period, it can cause incredible, profound spiritual transformation that helps us get closer to our enlightenment. It can give epiphanies and visions and all of these beautiful things, but we have to close our eyes to see them.
Yes, beautiful.
We also honor Ketu through the mystical arts. The mystical arts is a wide range of things. Ketu is connected to dreaming. So one of the mystical arts is lucid dreaming. This is a great energy to explore with Ketu because Ketu talks to you in your dream. So if you lucid dream, you can talk with Ketu. Lucid dream is that you are dreaming, but I know you are dreaming. So the ahamkar, the ego, is still able to conceptualize that it is dreaming. This is a traditional shamanic practice and is not easy and usually needs a teacher to be really fine-tuned. But lucid dreaming can be a really beneficial tool, the art of dreaming, as I like to call it. Now, there are other mystical arts. This is shamanism. This includes plant medicine and plant spirit shamanism. We honor Ketu through shamanic practices as well, indigenous rituals. These are also very powerful ways that we honor Ketu. As I mentioned, we honor Ketu through transcendental, mystical, and occult rituals and practices. So any type of mystical ritual or practice, we honor Ketu by participating in these practices. Now, we honor and improve our karma with Ketu by letting go of our attachments and prioritizing our alignment towards moksha. This sounds kind of obvious, but basically, because Ketu is forcing us to let go of our attachments and focus on moksha, generally speaking, that if we prioritize and emphasize those things, we will really accelerate and improve our karma with Ketu. Selfless charity, specifically the giving of way of personal valuables, is a great way to honor Ketu. Again, we mentioned that Ketu is connected to non-attachment and loss. So any material thing which you are attached to, have some attachment to, it's very helpful in honor of Ketu for you to give that away. Whether it's a certain amount of money because you have an attachment to money, or you give away your video games because you're attached to them, or you give away alcohol because you're attached to alcohol. The giving away of those things which we are attached to is going to be highly beneficial. And especially those things which you find most valuable, which are most important to you. So if you can, these things which you attribute the most value to and you have the most attachment to, we honor Ketu greatly by giving these things away. And all of us are a little bit attached to money. And so one of the best things that we can do is do some charity, give away our money, you know, different lineages of thought have different understandings, but it's particularly important during a Ketu period to give at least 10% of your earnings away to charity. Very important during a Ketu period to give a percentage of your earnings away to charity. And even more valuable if you can give away a particular valuable which you are attached to, like a car or something like that. We also honor Ketu through foreign and exotic travel experiences. This is even further emphasized by Rahu, but Ketu loves foreign and exotic travel experiences. And depending on the position of Ketu in the Ketu Dasha, it can encourage a lot of travel and a spiritual and mystical experiences as a result of traveling is a very strong way to honor Ketu, is emphasizing the spiritual and mystical throughout our travel experiences.
Wonderful.
A small question I have. I was gone. My internet connection was gone. I was pushed out.
Ketu.
And you know, it told me that somebody else with an identical IP number is using your computer.
Oh.
Very strange. Anyhow.
I knew this kind of stuff was going to happen. Like it was, you
know, I was warned. I was very cool. It's no problem. I was calm. Yeah. But one question I have concerning the honoring of Ketu. Mm-hmm. It is said that Ketu is associated with the dogs.
Yes.
Severely. Mm-hmm. So feeding particularly stray dogs on the respective days of Tuesday and even on Saturdays will be also highly auspicious. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly stray dogs.
I remember reading that, the stray dogs in particular, just like how we wear clothes that with holes and wears, we honor the stray dogs, those dogs which have lost a home, those dogs which do not have the food that they need. So that's the energy too, I think, that is even stronger, that they're stray, is that because you're really honoring and supporting these dogs that need the most support, that need the most help. And they're going through a greater moksha than us. Those stray dogs, I was in Peru, and they rule the street. The stray dog, hundreds and hundreds of stray dogs everywhere you go. They're constantly going through an experience of moksha.
Wow.
And
in parts of India, you also find that.
Yeah, and all you want to do is take care of them and feed them, but there's too many. Yeah, you know, my wife is like, I'm going to bring a bunch of, like, you know, worms medication next time we go and treat the dogs, and, you know, it was just heartbreaking to her. But yeah, I remember reading that in the ancient suggestion that we feed stray dogs and take care of stray dogs. It's a great way to honor Ketu. Thank you.
Oh, just one point, because we have in the Western world, we have this asylums, of animal rescue centers, you can say. Mm-hmm. We don't have stray dogs anymore.
True.
Yeah. So, but we can go there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can go there, and I think it would be a great honor to, versus getting a dog that is well breeded from a great pedigree for $2,000.
Absolutely.
In honor of Ketu, you want to go and pick up a rescue. You know, you want to adopt a rescue animal. That would also be very beneficial. You know, especially a dog. So to adopt a rescue dog would be very beneficial. Then you could feed that. Then you could feed that rescue dog every day.
Oh yes.
Might improve the karma. So
yes, or donate to a organization.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Online, there are many.
Yeah. So we honor Ketu through seeing obstacles, challenges, and change as omens or signs. So this is how we improve our planetary karma, is that instead of looking at it as an obstacle, we're looking at it as an omen. Now, we honor Ketu through using these omens or signs from the universe to align to our soul's full potential. We honor Ketu through surrendering of the future or the past and by living truly in this moment. And I came up with a quote here at the bottom that I think is a nice way to kind of summarize this energy, are the eyes within, not the eyes without, because Ketu's head is cut off and is like blind. So we must use our eyes within. The Ajna chakra, we must pull it within ourselves to meditate. So we honor Ketu by not seeing with this eye, but by seeing with this eye. And that's why I say the eye within and not the eyes without, because the third eye is the only eye that sees both ways. But these eyes only see out. So we must focus on this eye, which sees in. And I think that will be beneficial.
Nice.
Now, from an Ayurvedic perspective, because Ketu causes a lot of health difficulties, and so I wanted to focus on how to improve our health-related karmas that we suffer and struggle with as relates to Ketu. Ketu is related to the Ayurvedic dosha Pitta and contains the elements fire, which is Agni, and water, Drava. Now, the water in Pitta is not the same as the water in Kapha. The water in Kapha is like the water that in the river, the water that we experience in the ocean. The water that we experience in Pitta is much more like acid. It is much more like bile. It is much more hot, like acid liquid. Now, Pitta contains the qualities, gunas, hot, ushna, tikshna, sharp, lagu, light, drava, liquid, snigdha, which is oily, and spreading. Therefore, when dealing with difficult challenges or health challenges specifically related to Ketu, is it important to balance the Pitta dosha and its essential gunas. It is these qualities of hot, sharp, light, liquid, oily, and spreading that you have to worry about in relationship. The high accumulation of these qualities causes a great amount of damage to the body. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, we balance the dosha by its opposite qualities. So the gunas or qualities which are opposite to Pitta are going to be best to employ into one's life during a Ketu dasha or when the Ketu karma is strong to help balance the Pitta dosha. This includes heavy, guru, cold, shita, slow, manda, dry, ruksha, stable, stira, and gross, stula. So these are the qualities that are opposing to Pitta that you want to invite into your life in order to help pacify the Pitta dosha. For example, Ketu is very erratic, causes a lot of lightness, lagu, unpredictability, change, all this profound change and unpredictability, which is incredible light quality. So you need heaviness, you need groundedness, you need stability, you need sweetness. You need all of these things in your life because Ketu is so unpredictable and erratic that this heavy quality is very balancing to the Ketu. Heavy is very balancing to the Ketu. So during Ketu periods, I always encourage people to eat more, especially sweet foods. Now, you generally deal with issues of heat. So you don't want to be in an environment that is too hot. You also don't want to move too quick because Ketu is a very rajasic energy. It's constantly moving. So we balance Ketu vibration by slowing down everything and doing things slowly and steadily. So therefore, this challenging karma with Ketu can be improved within the daily lifestyle when we try to incorporate these opposing qualities into our life. We take the qualities of Pitta and Ketu and we try to find qualities that are opposite to those to help bring balance to that karma. Ayurvedic herbs that are good for Ketu-related health karmas include neem, rose, anantamul, and shatavari. These are all very good herbs for Ketu-related karmas. They are all pacifying to the Pitta dosha. Now, neem is particularly beneficial because it is said to be the herb of non-attachment. It is said to be the herb of moksha. In some extent, the brahmacharya, they take neem so that their sexual energy is very low. So the brahmacharya are supposed to take neem. So neem takes away desire. It takes away sexual desire. It takes away all forms of desire. So neem is a very good herb for those that are helping to find moksha because it takes away desires. Okay, that was the presentation. I hope everyone enjoyed and we got some insight into the karma of Ketu and how to improve our karma with Ketu. And now I'd like to dive into a couple live examples with the Saptarishi community, some questions that were sent in that we can look at to even further deepen our understanding of Katabe.
Yes,
Wonderful.
I'm looking for Priti to make her a panelist. That will be very helpful, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Here she comes.
Yes.
Hello, Priti.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Namaste, Preeti.
Fine.
Thank you for joining us.
So much for incorporating my questions here.
Your questions were great. I really love them, and I hope that I can offer some insight. Now, let's go over your questions again, and then we'll discuss the answers. But I just want to make sure that I have your questions correct. The first one is that you mentioned that your Ketu is in your 9th house of Dharma, while your moon sign is in Sagittarius in the Mula Nakshatra in the 5th house. You're asking
Yeah.
what does this indicate? And then in addition to that, what is the mystery behind the Rahu Ketu 3-9 axis? Or what are some of the significations of Rahu Ketu when it's in the 3rd and 9th house? The second question that you asked is Ketu shows spirituality, but it also shows detachment from the significations of the house it sits in, which is very true. So does Ketu in the 9th house show spirituality or detachment from spirituality? Are these the correct questions?
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. Is this your correct chart?
Yes, it is.
Fantastic. So to answer your first question, and I'll flip back and forth to the chart so the community can help see the chart to help understand the answer to the question. I have the North and South Indian versions here. But the first question is that Ketu in the 9th house has very powerful spiritual significations and mystical significations, but there are certainly exceptions to this rule. Now, I noticed your Ketu is in Ashwini Nakshatra, which is also ruled by Ketu, and I talked earlier how I believe that Ketu to be very favorable in Ashwini Nakshatra, but intense. So there's a very mystical and intense energy of your Ketu in Ashwini here in the 9th house. Now, Ketu in the 9th house, you mentioned it's the house of Dharma, but when Ketu is in Ashwini, it gives also very powerful significations to moksha. So your 9th house, it shows Dharma, but it also shows moksha because of the vibration of Ketu. And so there are Dharma energies here that are attempting to integrate with moksha. In a sense, it shows that part of your Dharma is this experience of moksha, but that there is a connection here between Dharma and moksha as showing up as Ketu and Ashwini in your 9th house. Now, it has an indication that your Dharma or spiritual evolution, because Ashwin twins is connected to Ayurveda, could be connected to medicine, healing, and the homeostasis between the body, mind, and spirit. So this shows that your Dharma and your spiritual evolution, it could be very connected to healing and medicine, and it is always connected to that the body and the mind or the spirit is in balance. And so there's a strong emphasis here on the balance of the body being an important aspect of the Dharma as well. Now, your moon is in the Mula Nakshatra, which has powerful indications of past life transformation that the native has gone through in order to align to their deepest aspect of devotion. So this connection of moon in the 5th house in Mula and Ketu in the 9th house Ashwini has powerful connections to Ketu and shows profound transformation as necessary and integral in your karma from past lifetime as well as this lifetime. So it shows that your spiritual path, your religious path, it requires an incredible amount of transformation. That your spiritual path is transformation is deeply integrated as part of it. So it could show a changing spiritual path as well. Now, the Rahu Ketu 3-9 axis shows there is some profound obstacle towards the spiritual evolution or dharma that must be overcome for the full realization and moksha to occur. So this is what I think the Rahu 3-9 axis is. Since Rahu is in the 3rd house, this obstacle often shows up that our intentions and motivations or desires can be less than sattvic. So we have to overcome these less sattvic motivations or intentions in order for us to fully reach our moksha and to fully reach our dharma, because the Ketu is in the 9th house. So it shows that there is a great obstacle that one has to change through and transform from in order to reach their full potential, both in terms of dharma and in terms of the moksha. How does that resonate with you?
Yeah, and my Rahu is conjunct with Sun, Mars, and Mercury in the 3rd house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, does it make more difficult, the transformation part?
Yes, especially because when the sun is in Libra, it goes into debilitation. So it shows that this is connected to the past lifetimes, and I remember that you mentioned it, but it might show that in past lifetimes you were not allowed to be who you truly were. The person that you are was oppressed or suppressed in some way. That can show up as the sun debilitated in the 3rd house. And because it's in with Rahu, because in the past lifetime impression of oppression or not allowed to be who you are, it causes a great amount of need to experience who you are. And sometimes this experience, because of the sun in Rahu, it might require you to experience some aspects of the false self in order to fully align to your path to dharma, moksha, and who you really are. So along the path, your motivations and intentions, you have to experience some of the ones that are not really who you are in order to help finally get to the one that is the most important. So in a sense, I'm saying that there will be a lot of smaller transformations. Yes, there will be one greater during your Ketu period. It's even significated. But because of all these energies in the 3rd house, there is a lot of subtle and small transformations.
Okay. My first dasha was Ketu. So Ketu dasha has already passed by.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a Mula Nakshatra.
Yeah. If the Ketu dasha has passed, then you should currently be in alignment with your dharma and your moksha in terms of your spiritual religious path. Now, the second question I think you asked helps give some insight into this as well. And you mentioned that, yes, Ketu shows spirituality and has its indication for moksha. But when it's in the 9th house, it can certainly have these indications. But Ketu in the 9th house does not necessarily show detachment from spirituality. Even though Ketu can take the significations of the 9th house. But it shows a detachment or lack of orientation to one specific religious path. For example, the ninth house is also considered the house of religion. So I don't think that Ketu in the ninth house takes away your spirituality. It improves your spirituality. It improves your mysticism. It improves your experience of the divine in your everyday life. But what it does show is that maybe that spiritual path for you, it is not contained within one religion alone. It is beyond the expression of one religion. And when Ketu aligns to the ninth house, it is common that there is some profound obstacle to one's spiritual religious evolution. And we talked about the Rahu sun in your third house, making that there's many small obstacles. And Ketu takes away our attachments and removes significations of the house that it sits in. But the situation removal is too strict of a term. I would say that Ketu is removing the religious path. It's removing the path of one specific religion only or one specific guru only, and saying that your spiritual and mystical path cannot be contained in one particular area, that it will take the way of the specific, of the singular indication. Now, after the Ketu Mahadasha, this can change. But since Ketu has disposition to give the significations of one has dispositions to take away the significations of one religion or one guru, and opens you up to all of the spiritual transformation, alignment, and mystical approaches in every religion and in every teacher.
One last question.
Please.
Ninth house also shows one of the karakas or signification of ninth house is father.
What was that?
Hello. One of the significations of ninth house is also a father.
Oh, of the father. So because Ketu can sometimes, in our familiar relationships, it can represent a void. So it could show a void or some type of spiritual separation or longing. It can even show a spiritual longing for that. And because your Ketu is in Aries, there's Ketu is Pitta and Aries is Pitta, and there's a strong double Pitta vibration here. So it showed the father could also have issues of Pitta. And that the relationship with him may be Pitta, which means there may be irritating or frustrating aspects of that relationship. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Namaste, Preeti. Thank you. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay, Renuka.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Preeti. Your questions were wonderful.
Mom?
Renuka, are you there?
She's there, but it looks like her microphone is muted.
Yes, plus her screen.
Well, she mentioned that her screen wasn't going to work, but that she would have audio.
Okay. So,
Yes. Namaste.
yes.
Namaste, Renuka. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. An honor and a pleasure.
The honor is all mine. Thank you so much. I hope that I can offer some insight into your query.
Yes, yes. Actually, most of my questions which were, going on in my mind have already been answered with your slides.
Well, that makes me happy. But let's look at your questions specifically in terms of your chart. Just to confirm your question, you asked if Ketu is in the 8th house, what does it signify in terms of karma, both in this lifetime and past lifetimes? And you also are wondering Capricorn's influence.
Yes.
Is this your correct chart?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So we're having a Ketu in the 8th house in Capricorn. We have Rahu in Cancer in the 2nd house and a Gemini Lagna with Venus and Mercury. So I loved your question, and I just kind of meditated on it, and then the answer kind of came forth. I really loved your question because your question has profound emphasis towards past life karma. And Ketu is commonly associated with past life karma. And whenever Ketu is in the 8th house, it has profound significations because the frequencies have likenesses and associations with each other. Just like kind of how I believe Ketu's natural sign to be Scorpio. Well, Scorpio's natural house is the 8th house. So there is a strong relationship between Ketu and the 8th house. The 8th house is a house of moksha. So Ketu in the 8th house has some signification energy. It's very strong there. Okay. Now, Ketu is the moksha indicator and has profound energies that help encourage and influence our moksha. And so does the 8th house. So you have the moksha planet in a moksha house. So this is very interesting, right? Mm-hmm. Since the question was oriented towards karma extending from past life into this one, I have speculated a particular type of vibration that I think would come from this type of conjunction. Capricorn is a sign of a native that goes through delays, obstacles, challenges, and adversities in order to succeed in their life. And when Ketu is in Capricorn, it can show many of these adversities and struggles that the native go through are unpredictable, chaotic, and can be challenging on the material realm. Paradoxically, it can be very positive for spiritual transformation, growth, and realignment to our soul's potential to moksha. Excuse me. So there is a very strong indication here that this is very troubling on the material realm, this karma, but very positive for you in your spiritual path. Now, the past life energy that is strongest here is someone who has had to endure great strife and struggle in the process of their mystical path to moksha. And this challenging experiences due to Ketu and 8th house significations in Capricorn may have a lot to do with death or loss of those that are close to you, persevering through drug and alcohol problems in the past life, and that actually in this life it could show sobriety from mind-altering experiences, but it could also show the struggle of those, but it kind of shows that you've been working on sobriety for lifetimes, which is that means that you may not necessarily use substances for your spiritual growth, like the soma, as the Vedas describe. Now, and it can also have to do with the temptations that come with the sex and the physical body. So from a past lifetime, it could show someone who's had to deal with a lot of death of those that are closest with them, persevering through drug and alcohol related issues, as well as temptations that come with the sex and the physical body. Also, because of Ketu in the 8th house, there's strong indications of martyrdom, which means in the past lifetimes it's potential that you were a martyr, which means that because of what you believed in, because of your spiritual beliefs and your spiritual path, you were targeted and you were caused to go through some great suffering as a result of your spiritual path from past lifetimes. This could show a sense of martyrdom as well. So translated into how that might manifest in this lifetime, it can include an aversion to substances, especially addiction. So, eventually a disgust or distaste for alcohol and drugs. It can also suggest the karma of death and rebirth as a theme that you have to face in this lifetime. That moksha, which is your spiritual path, but also witnessing the passing of others, is also a theme of the life. And in the long run, over the course of the whole lifetime, I believe it might translate to you having less fear, less worry, and less aversion to death because of your mystical path being oriented towards looking at it and experiencing it through many past lifetimes.
Okay, wow. Okay, what I wanted to know one thing more was like, how can I increase the spiritual, growth in this life?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well,
like you're saying, what you just said, like there is a struggle, at times I do have the struggle where I think like maybe spirituality is not the way, and you should just go into the materialistic life and everything. So is there anything where I can get out of that confusion and go on the spiritual path totally?
Yes, for you, because of Ketu in the 8th house vibration, it highly benefits you spiritually to sobriety. So like no alcohol or drug.
I don't drink at all or smoke. No addictions.
See, and again, that shows up with Ketu in the 8th house because you've already conquered that in a past lifetime.
Okay.
Now, are you married?
No.
Are you in a relationship?
No, I have no plans to marry.
Yes, and so also Ketu in the 8th house has a great amount of auspicious energy for your spiritual path in the path of brahmacharya.
Okay.
Which is the path of the path of the monk, it's often called, but the basic idea is the withdrawal from sexual activity, dating, relationships, focusing all of that energy internally. But the path of the brahmacharya, which is almost like the path of the monk or the nun, is strong within your chart, by Ketu in the 8th house as well.
Okay. One thing more.
Of course.
Of late, I think from 2014 onwards, towards probably in the middle of 2014 onwards, I have experienced some kind of, what should I say, decrease in the concentration while meditating and everything. Why is that happening suddenly with me? I find it difficult to concentrate in the meditation. Though I want to do it, something or the other happens and I'm just not able to concentrate. So is there anything specific which is happening, or something which I can change back?
Well, I don't have your planetary periods currently in front of me, so I'm not exactly sure what your Mahadasha and your Antardasha period.
I think I entered my Mercury Mahadasha sometime in October last time.
Well, that will make perfect sense then, because we discussed earlier when Mercury and Ketu relate to each other, that there is because the Mercury Mahadasha is the most logical or intellectual time of our life. Now, Ketu is in your 12th house. Mercury is in your Lagna, so I'm sorry. You have 2 planets in the 12th house, which I think is fascinating. But I think that with Ketu in the 8th house here and your Mercury being activated, that your logical, intellectual, rational part of your mind is being activated and is important for you to be using at this time. So the buddhi, which is connected to Mercury because of your Mercury Mahadasha, is being activated, and the hyperactivation of your buddhi, your logical or intellectual aspect, makes meditation. So the recommendation that is going to be really helpful is for you to have a guided meditation, like a meditation that your logical or rational mind can also follow. Dr. Ladd's 2 favorite guiding meditations are the empty bowl meditation. And you can find this online, but it's basically meditating on the idea of an empty bowl, and also ghee lamp meditation, which is actually a meditation where you stare at a ghee lamp.
Okay.
So because it'll be harder for you during this Mercury period to meditate without the logical or rational complicating or creating some kind of aversion, it's important the guided meditation aspect of ghee lamp, empty bowl meditation, walking meditations in nature. These generally more active meditations are going to be more beneficial for you at this time.
One last question. When my Ketu Mahadasha starts, okay, so can I expect something better than what it is like right now? Like the spiritual path that way?
No question. No question. But because of Ketu's inherent energy, when do you go into your Ketu Mahadasha?
I think I just started my Mercury Mahadasha, so
a while, yeah.
Yeah, I think 2033, quite some time.
Yeah, so the basic idea is that during that Ketu Mahadasha, you will go through profound spiritual transformation that will put you in your alignment to moksha. But because of Ketu's energy, you cannot predict or see how that looks. And because you are not in a Ketu period right now, it's not even being emphasized. So in a sense, yes, the Ketu Mahadasha has profound significations for your attainment of your spiritual path in moksha. Is there any ability for you to perceive what that will look like or how that will manifest until then? Probably not.
But Ketu is in the Shravana nakshatra, so that's not going to play any bad thing in it, right?
No. What nakshatra? Dhanista?
No, Shravana.
Shravana.
Yeah.
Can be challenging in that nakshatra, especially emotionally.
Okay.
It shows that because the moon, there is some devotional aspect of you which really wants to achieve moksha and will grow greatly in their path towards that. It's just interesting that that's not what is being emphasized right now, but is rather being emphasized at the end of your Mercury Mahadasha as you transition into your Ketu.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Renuka. I hope that was helpful.
Oh yeah, it was. Thank you so much. Thank you, Inge. Thank you, Bettina.
Most welcome. Plus, this one thought I got also. This Ketu is into a earth sign, so it will establish slowly.
Mm-hmm.
It will take time.
Delay.
It is earth. It is the most slows of the elements. Yeah. So give it time. Don't rush.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
of course.
Please, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so there's delay there. So patience is also important. I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Plus, the Saptarishis will, of course, add some change as well. I mean, if you just got into your Mercury Dasha now, you're running full levels Mercury.
Yeah.
So Ketu will be next in the Saptarishis scheme.
So there will be.
So you will get a flavor of Ketu very soon. And of course, with the second and third levels, the dasha changes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that your Mercury Ketu dasha will be looking into the future for you spiritually. It's like you can look at the destination, but you cannot reach it because it's so far. And I think that the Ketu dasha, the Ketu Antardasha, could definitely give you a taste of that.
Okay.
Plus Ketu return will be there.
Oh yeah, and that's in August you start Ketu return.
Okay, I will look forward to that then.
Good luck to you, Renuka.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay, last question that I have prepared is from Praveen Sagaran. Namaste, Praveen. Namaste, Ji.
Namaste, Kṣaṇāti ji. Inge and also Bettina.
Internet connection.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting to the webinar.
I'm having trouble hearing him clearly. Is that just me or?
No, same here. Praveen, you may close your camera.
Hello.
And yeah, and just speak. That might help for your internet connection to work.
Okay, I'll do that.
Because your voice is sort of a
It's distorted. Yes.
distorted.
It's been happening so much lately because of the debilitated Mercury and the Jupiter Venus double retrograde.
Once we make a webinar when the moon was transiting through Punarvasu. That was really unbelievable. 5 times we had to start it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Praveen, namaste.
Let's try again.
Yeah.
Ravin?
Namaste. Can you
Now
hear
it is-
me?
Yes, I
Now
can
it is
hear you.
better,
Hello?
yes.
Hello. Yes, perfect. Can you hear us clearly?
Hello?
Hello, Praveen.
Praveen,
Yeah.
can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you.
There's
So
a
we will
great-
try.
There must be a great delay, but I'll proceed forward. So how does Ketu influence the spiritual life?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay.
But
How-
can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you. There's just a delay. So your question 1 was, how does Ketu influence the spiritual life of a person, and in which direction does it lead us? And if Ketu is responsible for divine visions, extraterrestrial experiences, or powers of looking into the past or the future. A lot of these questions I like to think that I've answered, but I really wanted to look into the second part of this question because I found it quite bizarre and fascinating. This is your chart that I have for you here, G, as Scorpio Lugna with Ketu in a Kendra in Leo in the 10th house. Very strong position for Ketu. So to kind of answer your question, G, is that Ketu will certainly influence the spiritual life of the person. And this kind of summarizes everything we've discussed in a way. But the dignity and house placement of Ketu have profound indication and significance.
Yes.
That's
correct.
Ketu.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Ketu often leads us to a direction of moksha, spiritual liberation, emancipation, and surrender of our attachments and the ego. But the process it takes you to get there isn't always directly connected to loss, depending on certain factors within the native chart. For you, Ketu is in your 10th house in the sign of Leo. And while Ketu has profound and spiritual and moksha-related significations, those significations are lost, transformed, and altered by the placement of Ketu in the 10th house. Having Ketu in the 10th house is a particularly interesting position in that it can take away a lot of the spiritual significations, moksha significations that are often associated with Ketu. For you, Praveen Ji, it is important that your career, life, work, this 10th house energy is oriented towards your highest purpose or highest potential that the universe has for you. Regardless specifically of the concept of moksha at first, it is most important that your career, life, work energy is oriented towards your highest purpose or spiritual potential that the universe has for you. That means in your career-related energies, there is a higher purpose that is meant for you. There is a greater purpose that is meant for you. And there will be a journey through Ketu in the 10th house for you to find that. Now,
Noted.
In other words, Ketu in your chart is working to have you aligned to your full potential in terms of your career and life purpose energies. Moksha might be secondary to that. Now, that means that your career or work within your life, that means that if your career or work that you do within your life is not in alignment with the universe's will for you, your highest spiritual potential.
Okay.
Oh, Praveen ji.
Maybe you type the question in which you have, and I can read it for you. And like this, we can continue if there is an audio problem, yeah?
Okay.
And up to then,
So I'll just go back to what I was sharing about his query. This means, Praveen, that your career or work energies, that if those energies are not in alignment with the universe's will for you, then there will be much destruction. Then there will be much destruction, chaos, and change within your career until it is within full alignment to your soul's potential. So pretty much your career / energies is constantly going to be changing, unpredictable, transforming until your career is in alignment with your soul's potential. After your career energies align with the universe's will or purpose for you, then Ketu will start to manifest its moksha significations and help you upon your spiritual path. So until your career / life purpose energies are aligned with your highest potential in this lifetime, then Ketu will start honoring its moksha significations. But primarily, it is helping bring you to your career purpose energies, which is going to be very profound in this case because of its position in Leo. Now, Ketu is responsible for all of these incredible magical aspects you mentioned, like celestial vision, alien experiences, and the power of sight into the past or the future. Inge, do you think it's okay? Is it his keyboard that I'm hearing? Or?
Yes, I'm too. Yes, now not anymore.
Okay. Okay. So, Praveen, I can hear you guys. Okay, great. So, so you asked about celestial visions, extraterrestrial experience, and the power of sight into the past or the future. But the higher frequency of these energies are really only indicated for those who have a profoundly elevated and enlightened relationship with Ketu. The magic, healing, and psychic vision only manifests as balanced gifts or siddhis when one's relationship with Ketu has been profoundly worked on for many, 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 many lifetimes. In the meanwhile, Ketu also has a prone indication to make us think the individual I is having these magical experiences. And when that happens, it is really the ego expressing and working on its attachments in the process, showing that there is much work for Ketu to be done. So I do agree that Ketu has indications for divine vision, extraterrestrial experiences, and the power of looking into the past or the future. But I think because we are also unenlightened as human beings, that a lot of this times the experiences that we call divine, extraterrestrial, looking into the past or the future, they're really just our ego. And there is not any reality in these things. So for the enlightened person, yes, Ketu can help them see into the future, communicate with beings beyond this realm, and have divine visions. But I think that since we're all human beings, that it is a very, 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 very small percentage of us who authentically have this kind of experience.
Yes, ask one question also, because he say in terms of career, he is facing some issues, trouble with authority figures, especially since I'm serving in government, Ketu in Leo and Uttra Falguni Nakshatra.
Yeah. Yeah, and when Ketu is in the 5th house, Leo is a sign of power and strength, so there are certainly leadership vibrations being brought into your career. And when Ketu is in Leo, I imagine you will always have issues with your superiors, because when Leo is in the 10th house, ideally you are the one that has reached the highest position. So This kind of karma of having difficulties with your superiors, with your bosses, with different authorities as relate to your career, it is certainly a part of the karmic picture. And Ketu will be working on transforming you to the full alignment of your career potentials so that you are at the top, so that you are the leader, so that you are boss. And so eventually this energy will transform, and that I see you being the leader of your career, and you won't really have problems with authority or positions of leadership in your career, because you will be in the position of leadership. But because of Ketu in the 10th house career, I imagine this karma of you having positions with leadership and authority as relates to your career to be a consistent karma.
Yes. We can see also that the Lagnesh Mars is in 3rd house now. 10th Lord.
Yeah.
Preparing you.
Exactly. But I think that your career will constantly be changing until you have reached a position of power. That's kind of what I see when I see Ketu in Leo in the 10th house, is that your career will not settle because you won't be fully aligned to your potential of your career until that position has its own aspect of leadership.
So I hope these answers were to the point, Pravin. Yes? Yes, definitely, as you said, Kṣaṇāti.
Yes.
So great.
Great. So
Wonderful.
So do we want to take a couple live questions and hope that the internet connection works out?
Yes, we are very positive. Ketu is in Aquarius, no?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I'm still smiling no matter how many obstacles.
So wonderful. I was knocked out of the webinar, so the first questions I could not see.
I can read them.
That would be brilliant.
Okay. So first question is by Savita. Suppose it is in the 7th house in D1 and in 6th house in Bhavachalit, aspect in the 12th house of moksha. Now here, right from the beginning, we have to say over and over, these personal questions are very difficult to answer because it really takes a look at the whole horoscope.
True.
It's very difficult.
Did she the question was Ketu in the 7th house?
Yes, in D1.
And
in the 6th house in Bhavachalita, aspecting the 12th house.
Wait, so Ketu's in the 7th house. What with the 6th house?
Yes, and in the 6th house in
is
the Bhavachalita.
Is a cusp chart, you know?
I see. Well, I guess as far as answering this question, I'll just talk about Ketu in the 7th house, and what that really means is that one's path to moksha, one's liberation, is connected to their soulmate. That's one possibility, is that your partner, your life mate, is necessary, and their role is to help you get to moksha. The other role is that your partner is God, and that your path to moksha requires you to not have a partner. So Ketu in the 7th house has these two significations. One, that the partner is the wife or husband is necessary for you to get to moksha, and that they will always be helping you to get to moksha. And I have Ketu in the 7th house, which on a very simple level means my wife is always humbling me. My wife is always bringing me to moksha because she helps me fight my ego. And whenever my ego become large, she put it back down. And this is a very positive energy for me, and it's helpful for me to get to moksha. And so every time my ego grows, my wife is there to help humble me. And that is one of the ways that Ketu in the 7th house shows up as well. but it can also show this like path of the brahmacharya, which is the path of not having a partner and focusing on moksha versus any romantic relationship at all. So Ketu, depending on its position in the seventh house, can have those significations.
Okay, wonderful.
I think that answered the question. Like, yeah.
Yes. So Gina is asking, Ketu is conjunct to person's Atmakaraka. In my case, Mars in the 12th and Aries.
Ooh.
How does it manifest?
So when Ketu is conjunct with the Atmakaraka, basically the soul's journey, it's going now with Mars as the Atmakaraka. The Mars and Ketu, as I mentioned, have a planetary friendship, but this may not be necessarily easy, and this indication of Ketu is with Mars in the 12th house, right?
Yes.
That this indication shows that one spiritual path, while incredibly profound and a great amount of potential to align to one's path to moksha, because it's conjunct with your Atmakaraka and your Atmakaraka, the life in general will become unpredictable. The life in general will become chaotic. The life in general, and even though Mars is there, which is your Atmakaraka, so there's certainly going to be an action orientation to the life. There's certainly going to be an energy orientation to the life. And Mars is very concerned with setting goals and reaching goals and constantly moving forward. But Ketu is unpredictable. So this energy is kind of going to make, even though you will constantly be required to take action and to move forward, you can only do it one day at a time, because Ketu takes away the future and the past. And so when I think of Ketu conjunct with the Atmakaraka and the Atmakaraka's Mars, you are constantly, living your life in terms of your spiritual potential, but you can only grow one day at a time. And this will cause a lot of unpredictability to the future. I think Ketu conjunct with the Atmakaraka, a lot of unpredictability in terms of the future.
Okay, so Pranav is asking, how do you identify what purpose you were born for?
It's a great question. Not sure it's necessarily related to this webinar. But what purpose you are related to is actually not necessarily connected to this webinar, because Ketu is the moksha karaka, is the moksha indicator. And when we're talking about the purpose that you were created for, we're talking about dharma, your life purpose or your destiny, God's will for you, the creator's will for you, the intention in your creation, the intention in your incarnation. And this is more related to dharma. So in a sense, we find our purpose through finding our dharma. And this is seen through different aspects of the chart. The first house, the fifth house, and the ninth house are some of my favorite houses to look at for dharma. But that Ketu is much more concerned about moksha than it is with dharma.
That's right. So Chaitanya is asking, Cancer is debilitation position for Mars. So how Ketu will behave here? Because Cancer is watery sign and also in moksha trikona.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that I have some of the most compassion for those that have Ketu in Cancer, because Ketu and Moon are the greatest of enemies. And it was asked how this manifests. Well, this manifests particularly as a challenge to the mental and emotional aspect of the consciousness. So because of the unpredictability, because of the change, this is going to be very difficult on the emotions, on the feeling, on the mood. It shows that your emotions and your mind are going to be heavily challenged by Ketu.
Absolutely. So, We have lots of questions. So Vina is saying, I feel Ketu has some connections with lawyers. I know a few who have had major changes and transformations in life in terms of their profession.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because a lot of some of the professions that we have developed in the West are not professions that kind of expound our possibility. For example, there are many more possibilities in terms of our soul achieving this great amount of potential outside of being a lawyer. For example, being a lawyer is great, but there's also being a judge. There's always this greater potential. And so I think sometimes with lawyers, and my mom and dad and grandma, they're all lawyers. And my dad's now a businessman. He changed from being a lawyer. My uncle was a lawyer. He's a chanting kirtan singer. So I also know some lawyers who have delineated from their path. And I think it's because while law is such an important aspect of the world we live in, that being a lawyer doesn't always help an individual align to their full potential. I'm not sure if this is related to Ketu, but I just thought that was interesting, and I just wanted to share that. That I think not that there's anything wrong with being a lawyer, but I think for some people there's greater potential out there.
Okay, very well. Now George is asking, when Ketu is in the 8th house in Magha Nakshatra, does this mean that in a previous life one used to be kind of a spiritual leader or white black magician?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, with that energy in the 8th house, it could show, like I said, a greater potential to be a healer and a great potential to be a sorcerer. So the potential is there for you to use your magical gifts and position of leadership because of Magha to either make the world a better place, to be selfless, or to use your selfish intentions and manifest your desires. So yes, Ketu in the 8th house, especially in that nakshatra, shows this position that you have the ability to become either a healer or a sorcerer, and the choice is always ours.
Okay, very well. So here Anil has a great observation. Ketu plays an important role as it is difficult to detect and diagnose disease during its dasha or bhukti. Why is this so?
Why during Ketu periods is it hard to see?
Diseases are hard to diagnose.
Well, as I mentioned before, Ketu has no head, like head cut off, which means you're blind, which means you can't see. And Ketu is particularly blind to the future and to the past. And a lot of times when we're dealing with health issues, we're struggling with something on a daily basis, but we have no ability to see what that is in terms of the future. A lot of times the diseases and health difficulties that manifest during Ketu transits and Ketu periods, they're only there for as long as the transit or period is. It's not an actual disease, but it's rather here to make your health unpredictable. And so Ketu inherently makes your health unpredictable because in terms of your longevity, which is connected to the future, you're not able to see it. You're only able to understand and deal with your health issues and your health difficulties one day at a time, which generally means we're dealing with symptoms as they come up without understanding what the root cause is. Anyway, things like Ayurveda during Ketu periods that help us get to the root cause and not just the symptom of the disorder, but the root cause of it can be very beneficial and enlightening during the Ketu period. When we ourselves are blind and cannot see, it could be helpful to help an Ayurvedic practitioner who can see.
Absolutely. Wonderful, wonderful answer. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. Let's do like 2 or 3 more questions.
Yes, and I would have a suggestion as well, because we will release this video towards the weekend. And if there are technical related terms of how it will implement and work, But
General questions.
Yes, non-personal questions. Then you might be able to answer them on YouTube as well.
Mm-hmm.
Kṣaṇāti.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Of course.
Technical questions, I call it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
I always love the comments that people make on my YouTube videos, and I make a real honest and dedicated point to respond to all of the questions that I can, the comments people make on the presentations. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Great.
So maybe let's do a couple more questions.
I can see one here. It is from Renuka, that Shiva is all about moksha, detachment too. Does Ketu have anything to do with Shiva in any way?
Of course. Now, as I mentioned, Ketu and Ganesh have a very strong relationship, and Ganesh is Ketu's child. Ganesh is Shiva's child, and very similarly, which is very interesting, Shiva actually cut Ganesh's head off, which is why Ganesh has an elephant head, and Ketu doesn't have a head either. So, in a sense, I consider Shiva to govern both these energies of Ganesh and Ketu to some extent, and there certainly is a relationship. Also, Om Namah Shivaya means I take refuge in pure consciousness. Well, moksha is pure consciousness. So I think both Shiva and Ketu are working to help us experience pure consciousness. So I do believe there to be, like I mentioned, this celestial hierarchy, this celestial structure. Well, I see Ketu and Ganesh, and then I see Shiva watching over them both.
Wonderful, yes.
For Narendra, we have, I think, answered the question, because you have stressed upon the placement in particularly Lagna or 10th house. Yeah? He's asking for a Scorpio Lagna. It will have karma-oriented points. Yeah? Career-oriented points. So I think this question we have answered.
Let's pick one final
There
question.
is one, okay, Fausto, can you speak about a Ketu return?
We take it as a last point, maybe.
That's great. So the Ketu return, which is the transit of Ketu. So right now, those that have their Ketu in Aquarius are experiencing a Ketu return. Then come mid-August, those that have Ketu in Capricorn will be experiencing a Ketu return. Basically, as we mentioned, Ketu is that force which is radically trying to reorganize, and retransform our lives within our highest potential. So when the Ketu return happens, it is the great test of how far we are connected to that path, how far we are connected to that alignment. So the basic energy there is that when the Ketu return happens, if you are in alignment with your Ketu karma, that you will experience a profound amount of vision and reward and epiphany and even glimpses of enlightenment at the time. Now, if your Ketu return happens and you are not in alignment with your potential, like the example we used earlier, the lawyer who was meant to be the guru, and he enters his Ketu return. Well, then this Ketu return will keep giving you obstacles and challenges and difficulties that you must overcome in order to align to that path. So the Ketu return is the great test of our karma with Ketu, where we are rewarded with these profound spiritual experiences when we're in alignment with our potential, but will cause a great amount of obstacles and challenges and difficulty in our life for those that are farther away.
Wonderful. Okay.
Just a last question. A last question from Chaitanya. How Ketu will behave in upachayas?
Ketu performs in these houses in a way where our full potential requires a great amount of self-improvement. And when Ketu is in these Upashaya house, it shows that we have to improve who we are, which means first we have to purify our intentions and motivations when things are in the 6th house. We have to purify in the 3rd house. We have to purify our actions when things are in the 6th house. So when Ketu is in these houses, it shows a great amount of transformation, but that a great amount of self-improvement, working on yourself, is the key energy necessary to unlock the self-improvement. So that self-improvement and transformation, as you improve who you are and work on yourself, self-betterment, this is how you transform to the highest version of yourself. And it's the self-improvement and self-betterment that might allow for the achievement of moksha. And, you know, when Ketu is in the 3rd house, I like to think it's about having selfless intentions to help us get to moksha. When Ketu is in the 6th house, I like to think of it as selfless actions that help us get to moksha. But either way, it's the self-improvement that is inseparable from our spiritual path.
Wonderful. So I think we call it a day today, and we are very,
yes.
please forgive us if we cannot answer all the questions. It is always very, very sad somehow, because on one hand we want to continue till every question is answered, but then it will stress 4, 5, 6 hours, and Kṣaṇāti has already spoken 3 hours now, and I think he is ready for a break. Yeah,
Yes.
so please forgive us that we could not answer all the questions. We will try to improve on that.
Yes, thank you. I feel like if we wanted to, we could probably have a 12-hour webinar.
Marathon.
But again, I think our doshas will be vitiated by this. So I feel like for the balance of everyone who's helped put this thing together, this is a nice time to conclude. Now, just a few points I want to summarize to kind of encapsulate some of the things that we talked about, or to summarize things, kind of key points to take away, is that we mentioned Ketu is this force which is radically trying to reorganize and and change our lives so we are in alignment with the universe's spiritual will for us, especially in terms of our path to moksha. Ketu manifests this change by sending obstacles, omens, and signs into our lives, which we use to transform ourselves. And when we transform, our lives become to a higher frequency that is more in alignment with our soul's spiritual potential. When we ignore these omens, when we ignore these signs, Ketu acts like a demon, causing profound destruction of people, chaotic changes and loss in our lives that are troublesome to handle and causes suffering on the material realm. But when we honor these signs and omens that Ketu gives us, Ketu is like a guardian angel, rewarding us with vision, glimpses of moksha, epiphanies, profound spiritual growth, and alignment to our highest spiritual frequency. Jai Shri Katave Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you all for your time today. It has been such an honor and blessing for me to share this space with you.
Most wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
on
you very
behalf
much,
of everyone in
Kṣaṇāti.
Saptarishis.
And thank you to all for participating.
Yes.
We will call it a day today. Have a good night for many of you, or a good day, Kṣaṇāti.
Thank you.
Yes, and hope to see you soon again.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you all so much.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you, Saptarishis.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Kṣaṇāti. Always.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.